And we are recording. Welcome everybody to the Miscreant Book Club's reading of a pair of very interesting plays this week. This week we are doing readings of Laundry and Bourbon, which, as I understand it, is a feel-good buddy cop adventure that was written by James McClure in 1981. And we are also going to be doing a reading of The Woman in Black by Stephen Mallatratt, which was published in 1987. This is the fourth more woke sequel to the Will Smith, Tommy Lee Jones action comedy. So they're real crowd pleasers in here. So we're going to be no one liked my jokes. I'm really upset about this.
I like your jokes, Andy.
Thank you. All right, so first we're going to be introducing our participants today. We'll actually do the participants of Laundry and Bourbon first, and then after the reading for that, we'll introduce the participants for The Woman in Black. So to begin with, I will be saying your character's name. If you could follow up with your name and a short hello or statement of your choice. So to begin with, how about the character today is Elizabeth Calder.
Hello, I'm Sadie, and I'm reading for Elizabeth today. This is my fourth or fifth reading with Miscreant, and I've been having a blast. They've been keeping me sane during this hell year.
Well, very happy to be a part of that. Thank you for joining us today, Sadie. Next up, we've got the one, the only, Hattie Dealing.
Hello, I'm Kacie, and I will be playing Hattie. This is my second time doing a Miscreant book reading.
Excellent. Huzzah. Thank you so much for joining. Sorry about the dogs barking in the middle of your statement there.
You're
and
good.
then last but not least, the one, the only, Amy Lee Fullernoy. Boo, 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 boo.
I'm Val, and I've read 4 or 5 times myself with Miscreant, and it's been a hot minute because school was eating my brain, so I'm very glad to be back.
Wonderful. Well, we're super happy to have you here. Ladies, if we're all ready, we can go ahead and get started.
We'll go ahead and apologize real quick. My apartment makes noises sometimes, so there might be a dull grinding in my background.
Appreciate the heads up. All right.
Sorry.
No, thank you. Laundry and Bourbon. At Rise, Elizabeth is smoking a cigarette, leaning against the porch post with a book in her arms. Music is playing on the phonograph. Doorbell rings. She doesn't move. Sound of Hattie kicking front door.
Elizabeth, you in there? Where are you?
I'm back here, Hattie.
Hattie enters from around the side of the house wearing a loud floral print dress.
Here you are. Is there something wrong with your doorbell?
I don't know.
I've been ringing and ringing. Didn't you hear me ring?
Guess not.
Must be something wrong with your buzzer,
I guess.
Your buzzer just don't buzz.
I'll have it checked. Come on in. Sit a spell.
Hattie steps onto the porch.
A person could die out there in the heat, just buzzing themselves to death. Buzz, buzz, buzz.
I will have it checked.
Lord, it's like an oven out there. It's like an oven under here. Why don't we go inside where it's cool?
Can't. The air conditioner's busted. Call Fuller Noise. They're going to send somebody out.
Lord, first your buzzer doesn't buzz. Now your AC is on the blink. Looks like all your modern what is that word?
Conveniences.
Conveniences. Okay, thank you. Conveniences are just turning on you, girl.
Hattie sits, fanning herself with a magazine.
Can I get you something?
Nah, I'm fine.
Coffee.
Nuh-uh, I'm fine.
Iced tea?
Really, I'm fine.
Would you like some bourbon?
On the rocks with a splash of water.
Elizabeth exits in the kitchen.
You look beat.
I'm not beat. I'm in a frenzy.
What's the matter?
I'll wait till you get back. I'm catching my breath.
Why are you out of breath?
Mainly from buzzing your buzzer.
I'll get it fixed.
Elizabeth returns with drink.
Here.
Thanks.
It's a nice dress, Hattie.
Thanks, but it looked better on the mannequin than it does on me. Say, where's that worthless husband of yours?
Roy?
No, Burt Reynolds. I noticed that his almighty Thunderbird wasn't out front.
Oh, he's in town about something.
Don't tell me he's actually gonna get a job.
Hattie, don't start.
Okay. Say, you feel all right?
Yeah? Why?
I don't know. You look kind of flushed.
Oh, must just be the heat.
Yeah, just must be the heat.
Elizabeth takes a breath, preparing for the performance she knows is coming. She enjoys playing straight man to Hattie.
So, what are you in a frenzy about?
Oh yeah, today I went through living hell.
What did you do?
I went shopping with my children.
Bad, huh?
Disastrous. When my kids hit a department store, they go berserk. I think it activates something in their glands. We hadn't been in JCPenney's 5 minutes before they scattered in all direction. Now you take my little Cheryl.
Uh-huh.
Now she's a sweet little thing, but bless her heart, she's a thief.
A thief?
It's time I face the facts, Elizabeth. My daughter is a kleptomaniac. As soon as we got into that store, she started stuffing her pockets, stuffing her clothing. She ran from me, and 10 minutes later, I saw her. I barely recognized my own daughter. She looked like a beach ball with legs.
Well, did you make her put it back?
Yes, but it does no good. Thieving is in her blood.
Where do you suppose she gets it?
From Vernon Jr.
Where was Vernon Jr. all this time?
He was in the hardware department.
Doing what?
Chasing his brother with a hammer.
Chasing little Roger.
Yeah.
Well, what was little Roger doing?
Screaming.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, Lord is right. And somehow Vernon Jr. broke a solid steel JCPenney hammer.
Well, how can you break a solid steel hammer?
Don't ask me. When it comes to destruction, Vernon Jr. is a genius. But I tell you, it's the last time I go shopping with those kids.
Where are the kids now?
I took the little darlings over to Vern's mother's place. She has a nice big house. They ought to have it leveled in about an hour or so.
Elizabeth gets up, brings laundry over.
What you doing?
Oh, nothing. Just sit back and enjoy your drink. I've been putting this off all afternoon.
Here, I'll give you a hand.
Don't be silly.
Hush. I don't even have to think about it. I just put it on automatic pilot and fold.
They fold in silence.
You know, you don't have to be so particular with that t-shirt. Roy's got a jillion of them.
So does Vernon.
Why do men wear so many t-shirts?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Elizabeth stares blankly out at the land.
What you looking at?
Nothing.
You got a TV out here.
Hattie gets up, moves to TV.
Yeah, it's an old one. I watch it out here sometimes.
Checking watch.
Ooh,
She turns on set.
What's on?
let's make a deal.
Hattie returns to chair, resumes folding without ever taking her eyes off the TV set.
Okay, but keep the volume down. I can't stand to hear them women scream.
I know what you mean. All that yelling.
Elizabeth goes back to work folding socks, screaming.
Oh, would you look at that woman?
Where?
There, would you do that?
Do what?
Dress up like a chicken.
Oh, is that what that's supposed to be?
Of course it is. It's a chicken suit. The woman has dressed herself up like a chicken to be on national TV.
That is stupid.
Of course it's stupid.
Folds.
Besides, doesn't even look like a chicken.
Folds.
Chickens don't have bangs.
Folds.
Chickens don't have bangs.
Folds.
And I know. I've been around chickens all my life.
They fold in silence. Screaming.
Oh, God!
What?
Look there! It's her husband!
So?
So? She's got him dressed up like a rooster! Bad enough have her dressed like a chicken, but to get a grown man dressed like a rooster?
I could never get Roy to do that.
I should hope not. A man loses his masculinity when he's dressed up in a rooster suit.
Transfixed. Glued to screen.
Look, she can't make up her mind. What would you take, the curtain or the box?
The box.
Why?
Good things come in small packages.
Wrong. Small things come in small packages.
Well, wedding rings come in small packages.
Yeah, but once you got one of them, honey, go for the big stuff.
Oh, she chose the curtain.
And it is a dream vacation to British Honduras. Just think of it, British Honduras. Say, where is British Honduras?
South America, I think.
Why would any person want to go there?
Well, she sure does. Look at her jump up and down. Looks like she's gonna wet her britches.
Well, she can relax, because she ain't going.
Well, she just won it.
Well, she just unwon it after this commercial.
Oh, you've seen this one before.
I've seen them all before.
How does she lose it?
The bitch gets greedy and goes for the grand prize.
Does she win?
No, she gets a year's supply of frozen meat pies.
From British Honduras to frozen meat pies.
Yeah, ain't fate weird?
Commercial's on. Want another drink?
Elizabeth exits to fix drink.
Course I do. The main reason I come over here is to get away from the kids and get bombed. Lord, you just don't know what it's like having a house full of kids.
No, I don't.
They're all the time underfoot. It's like living with midgets.
Elizabeth enters with drinks.
You know, I'll take them. Anytime you need a rest.
Honey, couldn't do it. It'd give me a guilty conscience.
They begin to fold a sheet together.
How's everything? How's Roy?
Oh, you know Roy.
Yeah, I know Roy.
Quit grinning. You don't know him that well.
I've known Roy all my life.
Yeah, but you didn't really get to know him till high school when you dated Wayne Wilder. We'd all go double dating in Roy's Thunderbird.
Don't remind me.
Why not? They were the most eligible boys in Maynard.
Nobody in Maynard is eligible.
Remember, we were all going to get married right after high school? Me and Roy, Wayne and you.
Yeah, but I ended up with Vernon Dilling.
Yeah. Isn't life funny?
Hilarious.
Elizabeth crosses to TV.
What are you doing?
I'm going to turn off the TV.
Restraining Elizabeth.
No, we haven't seen the grand prize.
But you already know what it is.
Yeah, but you don't.
Well, I don't want to know.
Sure you do. Quick, sit down. They're about to start. First, they'll open curtain number 2. Wait. Aha! Frozen meat pies. And look, they're on old Greedy's face. Yeah, she's trying not to act so disappointed. Who you kidding, honey? You could have been in British Honduras, missy. Not that it's very nice, probably. Just one big jungle. But it sure beats hell out of frozen meat pies. Now, curtain number 1. An entire new kitchen and utility room ensemble. Big deal. Just look at that woman. Disappointment is carved on that face. There's one thing no woman wants. It's a new stove. Look! Now she's crying, and she wants us to think those are tears of joy. Baloney. You ain't gonna win no Academy Award with that performance.
Why do you watch this?
Elizabeth, TV game shows have everything. The thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. Mainly the agony of defeat.
Well, I think it's stupid.
What are you doing?
Turning it off.
Don't you want to know what the grand prize was?
No.
A brand new Lincoln Continental.
Who cares?
Well, you should. It's better than what you drive.
Roy is never going to get rid of that Thunderbird.
He's had that car since high school.
He loves that car, Hattie.
What's so great about a 1959 pink Thunderbird convertible?
Roy says it's a classic.
It's a piece of junk.
Sometimes I think he loves that car more than me.
It's only a car.
Yeah, but he says it can take him where he wants to go.
That's stupid. Where does he want to go?
I don't think he has any idea.
Well, good. Good. Well, we better get back to the laundry or we'll never get it done.
All right. God, I hate laundry.
Try doing it for 3 kids.
Week in, week out, it's the same old clothes.
You can only look at so many pairs of Fruit of the Loom before you want to puke.
I'd like to burn everything in this basket and start all over. Well, everything except this shirt.
Why? That shirt's all frayed.
It is now, but I remember the first time Roy wore this shirt.
When was that?
On our first date. He drove up in that pink Thunderbird in this shirt with all the pearl buttons. Oh, he looked just like Paul Newman in HUD.
He holds up a pair of boxer shorts.
God, these shorts are big.
What?
These jockey shorts, they're so big. They're not that wide. They're for a narrow body, but they're so long.
I suppose.
Why are they so long?
Roy likes them big, says he needs a lot of room.
Whew, it's hot out here. Lordy, how's the body supposed to keep cool?
Nothing to do but fix a bourbon and Coke and just sit and sweat.
I can't do that.
You can't sweat?
No, fix a drink in the afternoon in front of the kids.
Why not?
Children learn by example.
So?
Well, all I need is to come home to a house full of kids sitting around drinking margaritas. You don't know what it's like raising a family.
No, I don't.
And let me tell you, summertime is the worst.
What do?
I send them outside.
In this heat?
I give them a salt pill and say, play outside.
Well, don't they collapse from heat prostration?
Anything to slow them down.
I really wish you'd let me take them sometimes.
Elizabeth, you're not used to kids. The strain would kill you.
Elizabeth moves down, leans against porch post looking out over the land. Pause.
Elizabeth, what are you staring at that road for?
No reason. There's nothing to see.
That's true. Nothing green to look at. God, it's depressing living on the edge of a desert.
But just think, millions of years ago, all this land was underwater.
Well, at least it would have been cool.
I like this land. Sometimes it gets too hot and burnt for people. It's still too wild and hard for anything to grow. Oh, look, Hattie!
What is it?
Look at that cloud.
It's just a cloud.
Yeah, but look how it's throwing a shadow across the land. Oh, God, doesn't that shadow just look peaceful gliding over the land? Doesn't it look cool? Reminds me of a cool, dark hand stroking a hot surface. Lately, I've felt so hot and hollow inside. I've wanted something to come along and touch me like that.
Elizabeth, what's the matter with you?
Nothing, Hattie. Nothing.
You're doing it again, staring out at that hill. There ain't nothing out there but the highway and the road up to the house. Now, what are you expecting to see?
I was hoping to see a 1959 pink Thunderbird convertible come over that hill.
You've got tears in your eyes. Don't you tell me nothing's the matter. What is it?
Roy has been gone for 2 days.
Why, that son of a bitch! No wonder you've been so weird. Here, you sit yourself down here. I'm gonna fix you a drink and you're gonna tell me all about it.
I don't want another drink.
Hush up! Hattie's taking care of you now. The doctor is in.
Elizabeth sits. Hattie exits the kitchen, talking.
I knew there was something wrong the minute I laid eyes on you. First, you didn't answer the doorbell, and as soon as I saw you, I could tell something was the matter. That son of a bitch.
Hattie returns, having mixed drinks in record time.
Well, what brought it on this time?
I don't know. Things haven't been the same since he came back.
From Vietnam?
Yeah.
I know. I've seen the change, but believe me, you've been perfect about it.
Haven't been anything. I haven't done anything. He was the one that went off for 2 years. He was the one that got shot up. He's the one that has nightmares.
Nightmares?
Yeah, almost every night. Anyway, now he's back and he can't seem to get nothing started. He made me quit the job at the pharmacy. He worked some out at his dad's place. He's done some roughnecking out in the oil fields, but then he always gets in fights and gets himself fired.
Well, what's he got to say for himself?
Well, he says he's looking for something.
What?
He doesn't know what. He says everything has changed here in Maynard.
Nothing's changed in Maynard since the Civil War.
I want him back the way it used to be.
Elizabeth, he's always been wild and unmanageable.
I don't want to manage him. I don't want to break his spirit. That's why I married him, his spirit. Roy Calder wasn't going to take no crap from anyone or anything. He and Wayne Wilder were going to shake up the world.
Need I remind you that Wayne Wilder is currently serving 5 to 10 for car theft?
Roy is different than Wayne.
I wouldn't be too sure.
I just wish I knew he was safe. He could be hurt.
Or it could be with another woman.
I hope that's all it is.
Elizabeth, how can you say that?
Any man worthwhile is going to look at other women. That's natural. And sometimes they wander a bit.
A bit? That man's done more wandering than Lewis and Clark.
You're exaggerating.
Last year? Last year, he took up for 5 days.
Yeah, he had himself quite a time.
You mean he told you what he did?
Oh, sure.
Well, you never told me.
No.
But I'm your best friend. You're supposed to tell me everything.
It was different then. We had a fight and he left in a huff. Drove off to El Paso, picked up a girl hitchhiking.
What was her name?
Oh, Hattie, how should I know? She was a hitchhiker.
A little tramp, probably. A little hippie road slut. What'd she look like?
Blonde.
A little blonde hippie bitch that never washed or nothing, I'll bet.
Oh, yeah, and there was one other thing.
What?
She had a tattoo.
A tattoo on her arm?
Not exactly on her arm.
God. Where?
On her behind.
No! On her behind? How disgusting! What did it say?
Born to be wild.
Oh, Lord. Lord!
Then Roy went down to El Paso, got in a 4-day poker game, won $100, and come on home.
Weren't you mad?
Yes.
Didn't you want to shoot him?
Yeah.
I would have.
I thought it was what he needed to get something out of his system. For a while, it seemed to work.
You know, half his trouble is that damn car of his.
What do you mean?
He gets behind the wheel of that car and he thinks he's the cock of the walk, the best looking thing in these parts.
He still is.
Yeah.
I would have. No. Even the girls in high school today. I see them in town looking at him the way we did.
I never looked at him that way.
Hattie, you still do.
I tell you, it's that damn car. When he gets in it, he thinks he's young and free again. Somebody ought to take that car away from him.
I remember the first day he drove into town in that car.
So do I.
He'd worked for 3 years, summers and winters, for the down payment.
Only slightly used.
Roy and Wayne drove right through the center of town.
They looked like a couple of sultans.
It was bright pink.
It glistened like sin.
I remember I was coming out of the drugstore with an ice cream cone,
What flavor?
vanilla, and the sun off the hood was blinding. I couldn't even see the car. And it passed into one shadow, and I saw it for the first time. Oh, it was beautiful. And Roy hardly knew me then, but he waved at me, and I dropped my vanilla cone right there on the pavement. And I knew he was the one.
Yeah. All through high school, we double dated.
Remember drive-ins, Hattie?
I sure do. More like wrestling matches.
One couple would get the car one night.
The other the next.
We drive around and then go make out.
Wayne and me didn't even drive around.
God, I want them back. I wish tonight was 10 years ago and Roy was coming to pick me up in that pink Thunderbird. I wish I could buy back some of the nights of summer I had in that car when everything was cool and free and driving along the highway from this stupid town with the wind coming at you and the stars all the way to the horizon like diamonds that went all the way to dawn. I'm driving off the road somewhere, by a lake, maybe, anywhere. Being off from town with the boy you love better than anything ever in your whole life. I remember us making love for the first time. Really slow and gentle. God, he was gentle then. Oh, he taught me my body. I'd never really felt with my body before Roy. And suddenly it was like every pore of my skin was being open, like in a rainstorm, and feeling and holding everything you possibly wanted right there in your arms. Oh, what I wouldn't give to have those nights again. Just one night when the backseat of that Thunderbird was sweeter than all the beds in the world.
They took a lot of girls out in that car.
We were different.
Were we?
They stare at each other.
Look how he's treating you now. Elizabeth, you're getting all sentimental and romantic. That happened to me once. I let a man run all over me.
What'd you do?
I wrote a poem.
You?
Yep. Worst afternoon of my life. Never do it again. That's what happens when you get all sentimental and miserable. You write poems. Just like old Emily Dickens.
Emily Dickinson?
That's the one. Poor gal was a miserable, God-forsaken old maid all her life. And when she died, all that was left was just a drawer full of poems.
What was your poem about, Hattie?
I wrote a poem about Wayne Wilder. He was a mean person, and it was a mean poem. It was right after high school graduation. Wayne told me he was jilting me. You and Roy was getting married, and Wayne Wilder was jilting me. Hit me like a ton of bricks. I went out back of the girls' gym, cried, and wrote a poem. I still remember it. Oh, Wayne, you don't know. I love you so well. But you son of a bitch, I hope you roast in hell. Not much of a poem, I guess. But then I decided to get practical like Hattie's always had to be. I went back to where everybody was in their caps and gowns and I saw Vernon Dilling standing there. He'd just been fiddling under some car hood. Even in his cap and gown, his hands were dirty. But he was a good man and I knew he liked me. I got him to take me out. I got him to propose. Within a month, we were married. Poor Vern. Never knew what hit him.
What are you telling me this for?
Roy's just like Wayne. He ain't never gonna change.
Maybe not.
I've known you all my life. I know you need a marriage and you want a family. Am I right?
Yes.
Then wake up. You can't leave the important things in life like marriage and children up to the men folk. If they had their way, they'd just stick to their football and their fishing and their Thunderbirds and just be boys forever. Now, if Roy straightens up, that's one thing. If not, well, you gotta make a decision.
Maybe it's already been made for me.
What do you mean?
Nothing. Hattie, forget I said that.
Don't tell me it's nothing. You're pregnant, aren't you?
Yeah.
I knew it! I knew it the minute I walked in here today. Oh, Elizabeth, that's wonderful.
What's wonderful about it? It comes at the worst possible time.
Wrong. It comes at the best possible time. Well, don't you see? This might just be the thing that to make Roy straighten up and fly right.
But if it doesn't,
Then to hell with him.
I guess you're right.
Oh, honey, let me give you a hug. That's the smartest thing you ever did.
What do you mean?
Getting pregnant, of course.
Hattie, I didn't get myself pregnant on purpose. I didn't plan it this way.
Are you sure?
Yes. Yes, I'm sure. I don't know if Roy can take this right now. He doesn't know what he's doing himself.
Well, that's not your problem.
It's every bit my problem. It couldn't be any more my problem.
I didn't mean to get you all upset. I just meant...
I know, Hattie. I know. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Oh, well, sure. Sure. Say, mind if I use your phone?
Of course.
Figure I'd better check on the kids. No telling what devilment they've gotten up to.
Dialing.
Everything gonna turn out fine. You'll see.
On the phone.
Hello? Cheryl? Cheryl, dear, this is Mommy. Mommy. Your mother. Child needs a hearing aid. What's that, dear? Vernon Jr. threw a rock at you? Well, throw one back at him, honey. Show him who's boss, Cheryl. Sweetheart, put Grandma on the phone. Cheryl, this week. Sounds like they're running her ragged. Hello? Little Roger, is that you? I don't want to talk to you right now, Pumpkin. I want to talk to Grandma. 'Cause I want to talk to Grandma. Yes, Grandma does have baggy elbows. Now let me talk to her. What's that? Honey, of course I love you. I love you all the same. Do I love you more than who? Fred Flintstone? Yes. More than Paul Newman? No, but Fred Flintstone, yes. It's a grown-up joke, honey. Now put Grandma on. She's what? Tied up? You untie her. You hear me? You want a switching? Then you untie her right now. Marion? That you? Oh, you were playing. Oh, good. I thought they had you tied up for real. How they doing? Yes. Yes. Yes, I agree. There is too much violence on TV. Yes, I'll pick them up at 5. No, I won't be late. You have my solemn word. Goodbye. What's that, little Roger? Yes, it's nice to hear your voice again, too. You're playing what, Sniper? Vernon Jr. has climbed a tree in the backyard and he has a brick? Well, little Roger, listen and listen carefully. Under no circumstances go under that tree. He's gonna drop the brick on your head, sweetheart. So don't go under the tree. That's just what he wants. Okay. Okay. Yabba dabba do to you too. He'll walk right under that tree. That child has no more sense than God gave a screwdriver.
What does Abba Dabba do?
Yabba dabba do. That's what Fred Flintstone says when he's happy.
We hear the sound of Elizabeth setting her drink down on the counter and gasping.
Elizabeth, what's the matter?
There's a car coming up the road.
Is it Roy?
I can't tell. No.
Who could it be? You expecting someone?
No.
Isn't that just the way? Here you are, all pregnant and depressed, and people are dropping in unannounced.
Wait, I did call up Fuller Noise about the air conditioning.
Oh my God!
What?
That's who it is! Amy Lee Fullanoid.
I asked them to send somebody out, but I didn't think they'd send Amy Lee.
A flurry of activity begins. Elizabeth begins straightening up the porch. All the carefully folded clothes get thrown helter-skelter into the laundry basket. Magazines, newspapers are collected. As Elizabeth straightens up, she neglects the long pair of Royce underwear on the table. Hattie busies herself with fixing her makeup.
Of course not. What does Amy Lee Fullanoid know about fixing air conditioners?
I don't know.
Not a damn thing. I wonder what she wants. Are you friends with her all of a sudden?
Of course not.
Good. Because you know our bridge club isn't speaking to her bridge club.
I know, and I think it's ridiculous.
Of course it is. But they started it. Theirs is practically the only other game in town. If we combined groups, we'd have better games. We could have teams, tournaments. We could have round robins. God damn it! But no, they won't play with us.
That is not true. Amy Lee and her group belong to the country club. That's where they play their games. We can't play there on a regular basis because we don't belong. Those are the rules.
Well, they're dumb rules.
But it's like Amy Lee says, what is the point of country club if you can't keep people out?
Well, I agree with her. Keep some people out. But why does it have to be me?
Well, join the damn thing if it means that much to you.
You better believe I am. As soon as I get Vernon off his ass and making some more money. Lord, that man's hard to motivate. It's like pulling a mule through mud.
Doorbell rings. Elizabeth begins to answer. Hattie stops her.
Don't answer it.
Why?
Because it's Amy Lee Fullanoid.
That is no excuse.
She'll ruin our afternoon.
Doorbell.
Let go of my arm, Hattie.
Amy Lee is so tacky. She thinks she's cute, but she's tacky.
Quit being silly and let me go.
I wonder who picks out her wardrobe. Ray Charles.
Hattie laughs with a snort.
Ray Charles, get it?
I got it.
Exiting.
Hold on, Amy Lee, I'm coming.
Elizabeth exits. Hattie still enjoying herself.
Ray Charles, that was a good one.
Heard in the front room. Elizabeth, how are you? Amy Lee, come on in, etc.
God, I hate Amy Lee.
Amy Lee enters with Elizabeth, carrying a large box, unmarked, and wearing a dress exactly the same as Hattie's. Hattie turns to greet Amy Lee.
Amy Lee!
Hattie.
And Amy Lee!
Girl.
How are you?
Oh no.
I can't believe it.
Elizabeth steps in between Hattie and Amy Lee.
Why, Hattie, your new dress looks a lot like Amy Lee, doesn't it?
That's because it's the exact same dress.
Well, you two must have the same designer. Who is it, Hattie? Mr. Charles, wasn't it?
Yes, Mr. Charles.
Mr. Charles, who's he?
Frenchman, lives in Dallas. Anyway, it looks real nice on you, Amy Lee.
Oh, yours does too.
God, I feel like a bookend.
Can I get you anything?
I can only stay a minute. I've something in the oven that'll burn if I don't get back.
You're sure?
I'll stay.
Well, what were you two having?
Oh, just a little highball.
A highball?
It's a drink.
Hattie, Amy Lee is a Baptist.
Sorry.
Oh, now I take a drink every now and then. I'm just a back porch Baptist.
Well, would you like a bourbon and Coke?
Just a wee one.
Atta girl.
Elizabeth exits. Hattie stares at the box.
My, what a big box. Have you been shopping?
Oh, no.
Still, it's an awfully big package.
Yes, it is.
Yes, sir. Sure is a big box.
What have you been up to, Amy Lee?
Been busy as a bee. I'm on the entertainment committee for the country club and the recreation committee for First Baptist.
That sounds tough.
It is, because there's a very few fun things a Baptist can do without raising damnation.
And the country club committee too?
I am the entertainment committee.
No one to help you?
Clara Sims.
I see what you mean.
One can't expect many clever ideas from a woman who had 2 strokes in 1 year.
Nope.
No. I love the way you're wearing your hair, Hattie.
Yes?
Yeah, it's just as cute as a bug.
Cute as a bug?
I mean button. Cute as a button. Elizabeth, how's Roy?
Roy's fine, Amy Lee.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear it.
How's Cletus?
Oh, he's doing so well. So well at the store. Cletus is just so funny. I have to keep a short rein on him, though, or he'd just overstock everything.
Well, we wouldn't want that to happen.
No, indeed.
Lord, this is a big box, Amy Lee.
Honey, quit worrying about that box. Well, Hattie, what have you been doing with yourself?
Honey, keeping up with 3 kids is a full-time job.
Cletus and I, of course, want children.
Uh-huh.
I'm just dead for some, but I don't want to be tied down just yet. Children can be such a lot of trouble.
Well, of course they can be if you do not receive proper disciplinary guidance. Children must be taught.
I'm sure you are aware of the problem since your children are so high-spirited themselves.
Yes, but well behaved. Now you take my little Cheryl, a perfect girl, a perfect angel.
What about Vernon Jr.?
And little Roger is adorable. He's so quiet. For the first month, we thought he was deaf.
And Vernon Jr.?
What about him?
My neighbors, the Burns, had some trouble with Vernon.
You friends with the Burns?
Neighborly with them, but never friendly. I don't want them to get the wrong impression.
So one of their kids played with Vernon?
Yes, he's just now getting out of the cast.
What's his name?
Chester Burns.
I know the Burns boy, a born liar.
Phone rings. Elizabeth answers.
Hattie, it's for you.
His father was a liar too, Bobby Burns. Remember? He went to grade school with him. Lie a minute Burns, we used to call him. Excuse me.
Of course.
Elizabeth and Hattie in doorway. Elizabeth with phone. Phone sits on kitchen counter inside doorway.
It's Marion.
Are the kids acting up?
Something about a bonfire?
Hello? Marion, what's the matter, honey? Why are you coughing? Do you have a cold? Oh, that much smoke, huh? Well, turn on the fan. How are the kids? They did what? Oh no, they wouldn't do that to Poochie. They love that dog. At least they wouldn't do it on purpose. Yes? Yes? Well, you know, Poochie's a Pekingese. And they have long hair. They catch on fire easily. Well, yes. Well, Marion, look, it could have been worse. It was just the tail.
The phone goes dead. Obviously, Marion is hung up. Elizabeth enters with a tray of drinks, crackers, cheese, etc.
What was that all about?
Oh, Marion's dog, Poochie's tail caught on fire. She's trying to frame my children. She's overprotective about that animal.
Well, would you just look at all this?
Oh, it's nothing.
It looks real nice, Elizabeth.
It's only crackers and dip. Now, what brings you out this way, Emily?
Oh, just to visit
Uh-huh.
and to do some business.
Uh-huh.
Girls, it's that time of year again at First Baptist.
Not pancake supper.
You guessed.
How much are the tickets?
$5.
That's a lot to pay for a stack of flapjacks.
All the proceeds go to charity.
Last year, they were leathery. Made me sick.
All the proceeds. Our mission in Paraguay has worked wonders.
Paraguay? Where's that?
South America. It's a very backward country.
No wonder it's backward. Only people there are people from game shows and Baptists.
What?
Never mind.
Anyway, there are souls need saving there. The people are starving to death. We bring them Jesus.
Well, if they're starving, why don't you bring them a hot meal?
Oh, we do. All sorts of good things.
Oh, like what?
Powdered milk, instant eggs.
Yummy.
The underdeveloped countries need the blood of the Lamb.
Blood of the Lamb?
Yes, the forgiveness of God, the compassion of Christ, Christian charity. And we gotta hurry because the Catholics got a head start on us.
Frankly, I say let them have it.
Elizabeth, communism flourishes in Catholic countries. You were raised Methodist. That's practically Baptist. You ought to know that.
Well, I don't.
Hattie, how were you raised?
With a stick.
Oh, that's right.
Spare the rod and spoil the children.
I forgot your people are from Mississippi.
Yes, they were in agriculture.
Anyway, in many Catholic countries, Protestant missions are the only thing standing between us and the red threat.
Lord, Amy Lee, it sounds like you've joined the John Birch Society.
Honey, I can't. I'm involved in too much club work as it is.
Elizabeth goes to get purse. Hattie digs checkbook out of purse. Amy Lee produces a roll of tickets.
Here's my 5.
Think of this as a contribution to the kingdom of heaven.
Will the kingdom of heaven take a check?
Uh-huh. A contribution to a better world. And isn't that what we all want for our children as mothers and mothers to be?
Don't worry, Emily. You're a real mother already.
Hattie rips out a check for Amy Lee, or rips out a check. Amy Lee rips off a ticket. They exchange. Pause.
Excuse me. I've got to go to the little girl's room.
Pause as she exits.
Hattie's had a few.
I never listen to Hattie when she's talking like a sharecropper's daughter. But she is.
What's in the box?
What box?
That box.
Oh, I'd forget my head if it wasn't screwed on. It's the air filter
What air filter?
for your air conditioner.
Well, I don't need one.
What? Cletus told me you did.
No, my filter's fine. It's the motor. Damn thing won't turn on.
Ah.
Yes.
Well, Cletus told me y'all talked and he said it might be your air filter, so I decided to run one out.
No, I didn't talk to Cletus.
No?
No, talk to James.
Oh, that's right. Cletus told me James had taken the order and it sounded like it might be your filter, so I decided to run one out.
Well, bless your heart.
Her smile vanishing.
What do you need here, Amy Lee?
Silence. Hattie returns. Immediately notices the box has been moved.
Where's the box?
There.
Oh, thank God. Didn't want you to lose it.
Hattie sits. She immediately notices the hostility in the air.
So,
Yeah, so
how have you been, Hattie?
fun.
I'm so glad. How's Vernon?
Well, you never ask about Vernon. What the hell's going on here? What have you two been talking about? Have you two been talking about me? God, I leave the room and people talk about me. And I'm an object of gossip.
No, we haven't been talking about you, Hattie.
Well, good. Good.
No, but I think Amy Lee was about to tell me something.
Well, Elizabeth,
Go on, Amy Lee.
Yeah. What is it?
well, not in front of Hattie.
What do you mean, not in front of Hattie? Anything you say to her, you could say to me.
Go on, Amy Lee.
Well, it's about Roy.
What about Roy?
It pains me to say this.
I bet.
I saw Roy yesterday
Really? Where?
here in Maynard.
And?
Well, he wasn't alone.
Who was he with?
Well, it pains me to say this.
Force yourself.
Margaret Crowell.
Margaret Crowell?
Yes.
Hattie takes a long sip of her drink.
Thank you, Amy Lee.
Well, I thought you should know.
Thank you.
I thought you should hear it from someone who cares. I'm sorry.
Why?
Well, because
Nothing to be sorry about. I knew Roy was with Margaret Crowell.
you did.
You did?
Yeah. He called yesterday. He was late for supper. He called and he'd said he'd given Margaret Crowell a lift.
Oh, Elizabeth,
You see there?
I feel terrible.
You ought to.
I feel horrible.
People like you start rumors.
It's okay, Amy Lee.
Vicious tongues.
You want me to go? I know you do.
Sit down.
How can you stand to look at me?
It's not easy.
Sit down. I will fix you a drink.
Let me fix it.
Elizabeth, can you forgive me?
Forgive you, Amy Lee.
Oh, you're a Christian soul. Isn't she a Christian soul?
Pouring a huge drink at sideboard,
Hell, we're all Christian souls.
Hattie pours Amy Lee an enormously potent drink.
Elizabeth, I feel so bad.
Forget it.
So many bad marriages lately in Maynard has made me unnaturally suspicious.
What do you mean?
Hattie
The
returns
American-
with the drink.
The American family's just falling apart.
Cheers.
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 They all drink.
Whew, that was strong.
The second sip is always smoother.
Sipping and smiling brightly.
You're right.
Now, what's this all about bad marriages?
Well, Maynard, Texas has just become another Peyton place, that's all.
Well, tell.
Well, people are just running around on each other.
Well, who?
Laurette Weems.
Who would run around with Laurette Weems?
No, her husband's been running around on her.
I don't blame him.
This is her third marriage.
It sure is.
Yes, there is something seriously wrong in Laurette's approach to modern marriage.
Who else?
Dorothea Hicks is expecting.
What do you expect? She's Catholic.
But 6 children.
She doesn't have children. She drops the leaders.
Amy Lee shares a dirty laugh with Hattie.
Who else?
Jenny Jo Gilcrease,
Divorced?
pregnant.
No! They can't afford that child.
Of course not.
What does her husband do?
Works at the amusement park over in Snyder, runs the go-kart ride.
Oh, brother.
But you want to hear the best part?
What?
He doesn't want the child.
Oh, no.
Yes, she told me that he told her that if she got pregnant, that was her tough luck. She could just raise it herself.
That man has no sense of responsibility.
But listen to this.
There's more?
Do you know what Jenny Jo is contemplating?
What?
Abortion.
Abortion?
Yes, ma'am.
No.
Where she'd get it, I don't know. She can't get one in Maynard. She'd have to go someplace like didn't have any morality like Dallas or Houston.
But can you imagine her position?
She shouldn't have gotten herself pregnant by a man who raced go-karts.
Hattie, you're being heartless.
Hattie's just telling it like it is. I know plenty of people who've married for money.
Wish you could hear yourselves.
Why?
What's up?
So Jenny Jo has gone and gotten herself pregnant. What business is it of yours? So her husband doesn't want it? What business is it of yours? She probably told you all that because she had nobody else to listen to. Somebody she could open up to. God, don't you know she feels like the loneliest person in the world?
Elizabeth, you're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we shouldn't have picked on that poor pregnant Catholic girl like that.
Sorry, I don't know what got into me there. I didn't mean to spoil the party. Here, have some dip.
This is good dip.
Fresh avocados. Growing myself out in the garden.
Pause. Amy Lee mistakes the long pair of Royce underwear, which Elizabeth neglected to remove from the coffee table, for a table napkin. She demurely wipes her mouth with the underwear. They all realize what it is at the same time and break up. As the laughter subsides, Elizabeth gamely tries to get the conversation back to a polite level.
Well, Amy Lee, how's your bridge game, girl?
Oh, that. It's fine.
Don't tell me you're giving up bridge.
Well, no.
Thank heavens. It took me forever to learn bridge.
But in just a few months, I doubt whether anyone will be playing bridge at all.
What?
You mean you haven't heard the news?
News? What news?
Haven't you heard?
No. What news?
Oh, Elizabeth, surely you know.
No, she doesn't.
Oh, you must.
I tell you she doesn't.
How do you know?
Because if she knew, she'd tell me, and then I'd know. But she didn't, so I don't. What's news?
Bridge is on the way out.
Oh, God.
There is a new game.
Is it hard?
It's an Oriental parlor game.
Is it harder than bridge?
What's the name of it?
I'm sure it's going to be the new rage.
What's its name?
But I just got through learning bridge.
Hush up. What is its name, Amy?
Mahjong.
Mahjong.
Mahjong. Well, I've heard of that game.
Well, I haven't.
Trudy Stevens just came back from Dallas and she brought a Mahjong set at Neiman Marcus.
That sounds like Trudy.
Don't you just know it's gonna be hard?
Calm down. We don't know anything about this game except it's Oriental. It might not be bad.
I'm real good at Chinese checkers.
Be there?
This is nothing like Chinese checkers. Mahjong is a cultured parlor game that has been around for thousands of years.
See, they've had all the time to make it even harder.
Settle down. You don't know if it's going to be hard.
Oh, it is very hard.
I knew it.
Even Trudy Stevens can't figure it out, and she does comparative shopping.
Addie, you're getting worked up over nothing.
You mustn't let it upset you so.
I'm not upset. How do you play this game?
It's played with tiles.
Tiles? Bathroom tiles?
No, silly, with ivory tiles, like dominoes, only instead of little dots, each tile represents a different style of tile. Like one will be like 4 bamboos or 3 winds or 5 dragons. Then you pass it to your left and then you pass it to your right. Then, of course, there's your courtesy pass, a whirlwind of excitement. Then you want to build your wall.
Stop! I ain't building nothing. Bamboos, winds, dragons. It's no good. It took me a year to learn bridge. I concentrated my entire being on bridge. I neglected my household work. My children nearly starved, all for bridge, which I finally learned. But I can't do it again. I can't go through that hell again. It'd kill me.
Well, of course, if you don't want to learn the game, you won't be able to play.
Shut up! I'll play if I want to.
You won't play if you don't know the rules.
I'll know the rules because we're still gonna play bridge. We're not changing games in midstream.
Hattie.
What are you talking about?
I know what you're doing. You're trying to pull a fast one. You and Trudy Stevens are the only two that know the rules. You're trying to get us all to play this stupid game so you two can clean up.
We are not.
You just want to be a couple of mahjong hustlers. I know for a fact you and her cheat at bridge.
Wait, what?
What do you come here for?
To give Elizabeth this.
Amy Lee
Yeah.
picks up box. Hattie snatches box.
Yes, and what is this? I've been wanting to know all afternoon. Is this mahjong? Are these the tiles? God, they're big.
Those aren't the tiles.
Well, what's in here?
An air filter.
What's all this got to do with an Oriental parlor game?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. God, you're stupid. You're an idiot. You're as stupid as that husband of yours, and he's a moron.
Are you calling me a moron?
No, you're just an idiot. He's the moron.
Shut up, Amy Lee.
Watch what you say about Vernon Dilling. He's twice the man Skeeter Flournoy is.
They don't call him Skeeter no more.
Everybody calls him Skeeter.
He may have been Skeeter once, but he's married to me now, and he ain't never gonna be Skeeter again.
How come?
Because of the appliance store, the Chamber of Commerce, and the country club. That's why.
Oh, yeah? Well, I'm breaking into that country club next year.
Huh? You and what army?
You can't keep me out.
What makes you think I can't?
Why, you little bitch.
Calm down, both of you.
She can't talk to me that way. We grew up together, Amy Lee Bradley. Your folks were just as poor as mine.
Yes, but at least my daddy wasn't a sharecropper.
Yeah, well, at least I didn't marry for money.
All cards on the table.
Yes, I married Skeeter Flournoy, and I've done all right for myself. I'm in the country club, aren't I? There's nobody eligible in this stupid town. We all know that. Wayne Wilder was the best thing that ever happened to you, and he was a car thief.
Amy Lee.
Wayne Wilder jilted you. You married Vernon, and then you had a kid right off the bat. That always seemed funny to me.
Take that back.
I don't have to.
You do if you want to stay healthy.
Hattie advances on Amy Lee. Hattie begins to chase Amy Lee about the stage, first around the table grouping right, then around the table left, knocking chairs, props, etc. over as they go. Elizabeth follows them, trying to intercede, Hattie and Amy Lee screaming all the while.
Hattie!
You little bitch.
No, Lord!
Finally, Elizabeth manages to restrain Hattie, at which point Amy Lee begrudgingly speaks.
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. Oh God,
What is it?
I got the hiccups.
You sure?
Yes.
Come on in the kitchen.
They say the best way to cure the hiccups is to scare someone.
Hattie follows Amy Lee and Elizabeth into the kitchen. We hear a tremendous scream from Hattie, followed by much commotion.
Ooh.
Look what you've done.
Amy Lee and Elizabeth come back on stage to retrieve Amy Lee's purse.
Oh my God.
It's okay, Amy. It's okay.
I want to go home.
You sure you don't want to?
No, home. I want to thank you for a really nice day.
You sure you're okay?
I'm fine. Perfectly fine. Well, bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Amy Lee.
Elizabeth exits with Amy Lee to see her to her car. Hattie comes back on stage holding one of her shoes. She sits on the table.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you for buying tickets to my supper.
Elizabeth enters, sits in chair left.
Well, It's been a great day. My daughter was nearly arrested for shoplifting. My eldest son set fire to my mother-in-law's picnic. And now a Baptist has barfed on my shoe.
Two women chuckle together.
Damn, that's a pretty sunset.
Yeah, it's my favorite time.
That's one thing Texas is good for. Sunsets.
It's the only time things get soft. Look, Hattie, the evening star.
That was quick thinking about Margaret Crowell.
Hattie,
Huh?
I'm sorry it never worked out for you and Wayne.
What's that supposed to mean?
I think that's what we've been talking about all afternoon. Roy and I, Wayne and you.
Hell no. That's all over with years ago. I'm better off with old Vernon. He isn't worth kicking off the porch. But we're, well, comfortable together. Now Wayne he was too. Hell, Wayne was Wayne. Sure, I loved him, you bet.
Well, I love Roy, Hattie. And he needs me right now. He doesn't know it, but he does. And I'm going to be here.
Well, I gotta go get the kids.
Okay.
Never did finish folding your laundry.
I'll get to it.
The women stand facing each other. Hattie unconsciously touches Elizabeth's stomach. They smile, then pull away.
You hang on to Roy.
I intend to.
He's the last wild thing left around here. Talk to you tomorrow?
Yeah. Call me.
Hattie exits. Elizabeth turns on the phonograph again. As the lights fade to black, Elizabeth takes a deep breath. Blackout. Yay! Wonderful job, y'all. That was fantastic. Huzzah!
Fun play.
Fun play. Thank you so much.
So much emotion.
There's a whole tidal wave there.
Yes.
We are going to dive right on into the next play, but I do want to encourage all of you, if you are able and willing, to stay for a brief discussion of these plays after the conclusion of The Woman in Black. Y'all did such a great job, and we'd love to be able to hear your perspectives and feedback on all of this as well. So,
before we start, Andy, my mother's trying to get in. I kept on harassing her.
I see. I am admitting presently.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Sorry I didn't spot that until now.
I thought you just meant that your mom was locked out and you weren't letting her in.
Right. I'm just outside, but it's fine. Hi, Mother.
Hi, Veronica's mother.
This is Sharon, everybody. She just wanted to watch this.
Hi, Sharon. Welcome. We're glad to have you.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing fantastic. We're actually just about to start the reading for the second show here. If you could do us a favor and mute your audio and turn off your video just to make sure we don't have any disruptions in the reading, if that's okay. Excellent. All right. And are we ready for the second of the two readings?
I'd like to preemptively apologize for my attempts at these accents.
I think that is absolutely okay.
Okay.
Mom,
you can mute your screen. There's a little camera thing. You can click off the camera. You see it was like right next to the microphone that says mute? There you go.
Okay, excellent. So joining us for the second half of today's reading, we have, and again, I'll say your character name. Please state your name and anything else you'd like to say for the rest of us. We have, to begin with, the one, the only Arthur Kipps.
Hi, I'm Owen, and I'm very excited to do this reading with Miscreants.
Excellent. Thank you very much for joining us. Very glad to have you back with us today. And then, of course, the one who needs no introduction whatsoever and hardly even a single character name. We have the actor.
The actor. Hello, I'm Veronica. This is largely makeup. So good.
Fantastic. All right. We shall begin. Act 1, a small Victorian theater. The proscenium has its gilding and its cherubs, and the curtains are gathered to the sides, revealing a stage that is unprepared for the performance and devoid of scenery. On the stage is a clutter of cloths, boxes, and furniture. The clutter will evolve according to the needs of the performance, though they should include a couple of chairs, a rocking chair, a high stool, a blanket, and a large skip or trunk. A gauze divides the upstage area from the downstage. Beyond it, though unseen until lit, odd shapes of furniture are shrouded in cloths. The action, until stated, takes place in the downstage area and in the aisle of the theater. A door is placed at the side of the stage. The door, which is presumably a remnant from some previous production, stands firmly closed. The house lights remain on and working lights come up on the stage. A middle-aged man enters. He carries a manuscript. He stands on the stage. This man, whose name is Kipps, will not be referred to as Kipps, but as actor, even though he clearly isn't one. At the back of the theater, in amongst the seats, a young man enters. This man, who is an actor, will not be referred to as actor, but as Kipps. The house lights remain on as the actor on the stage begins to read from his manuscript.
It was 9:30 on Christmas Eve. As I crossed the long entrance hall of my house on my way from the dining room, where I had just enjoyed the first of the happy, festive meals, toward the drawing room and the fire around which my family were now assembled, I paused, and then, as I often do in the course of an evening, went to the front door, opened it, and stepped outside.
This is intended to be of interest, I take it.
Why, yes, of course.
Then why announce it as if it were of the fat stock prices?
I'm afraid I don't understand.
Let us see this entrance hall. Let us see this house. Let us taste and smell this happy, festive meal.
But that's impossible.
No, sir. Draw on your emotions and on our imaginations.
Forgive me, I am not an actor.
No. Again. Try it again.
It was 9:30 on Christmas Eve as I crossed the long entrance hall of my house on my way from the dining room where we had just enjoyed the first of the happy festive meals.
You will excuse me. I know that what you read holds particular significance for you, that it is possible it will cause you some distress, but I must implore you. Have sympathy for your audience.
Sir.
Just now, we are alone here in this theater. These rows of empty seats are unlikely to protest as you hum and mumble through your lines. But believe me, sir, speak them thus before an audience and you'll see them one by one expire with boredom.
It was 9:30 on Christmas Eve as I crossed the long entrance hall of my house on my...
Long entrance hall?
That's right.
Why long?
Well, because it is.
Have sympathy for your audience. Are they interested in its length?
I apologize. I'm clearly wasting your time.
Stay where you
His
are.
manuscript in his pocket and moves to leave.
Stay where you are.
This is a foolish venture. I should never have come.
You did, however, and you have paid me for the day. I have no intention of not giving you full value.
Please, I don't...
No, sir, attempt to leave, and I will leap upon you and compel you to recite the sonnets in their entirety. We'll make an Irving of you yet.
I have no desire to be an Irving. All I wish, implore, is that this tale of mine be told and laid to rest, God willing, so I may sleep without nightmares.
Which is why you came to me?
Yes.
As one practiced in these things?
Yes.
As one who will impart to you the rudiments of public speaking, who will offer advice as to expression and delivery, and above all, instill in you the confidence to stand up and make a go of it.
Confidence?
Yes, confidence. Now then, 9:30, Christmas Eve, excitement, anticipation, crisp air, crackling fires, children asleep in the stockings by their bed, a happy family, content, delighted, and above all, at peace.
The actor summons up his energies.
It was 9:30 on Christmas Eve as I crossed the entrance hall of my house on my way. It was 9:30 on Christmas Eve. It was 9:30 on Christmas Eve.
What time was it?
9:30.
Not on Christmas Eve by any chance. Good gracious.
I'm very sorry. This clearly isn't a success.
You see, it doesn't come in 5 minutes. You think to stand up, recite your tale, and have your audience hang upon your words, as if that's all it takes. In which case, why'd you come to me for help? So that I'll say, yes, wonderful, without flaw. Believe me, sir, performing isn't acquired. Believe me, sir, performing is an art acquired with tears and time. I would be encouraged, sir, if every time I offered some advice, you would not put up your manuscript and make to stalk out of the theater.
Advice.
Yes, advice.
Sounds more like reproval.
I promise you that as the day goes on, it's likely to sound more so.
May I just say, it is not a performance that I wish to give. No, I think we are at a misunderstanding in that respect. I wish to speak it. No more. For my family only. For those who need to know. I am not a performer. I have no pretensions to be, nor inclination, but those terrible things that happened to me, I have to let them be told. For my health and reason.
You say you're not a performer.
Oh, truly.
In your hands is a manuscript which, on estimate, will take 5 hours to read. If you, as an acknowledged non-performer, should stand before an audience, however friendly, and drone at them for longer than it takes to play King Lear, I trust you will be unsurprised if by the end of it they're either fast asleep or at your throat.
5 hours?
At least.
Good heavens. I had no idea. 5 hours?
He slumps into a chair.
I cannot possibly.
At the length he looks up, addressing Kipps.
It must be told. I cannot carry this burden any longer. It must be told.
Blackout. When the lights return, the house lights stay off. Kipps is now on stage with the manuscript. Kipps reads it rather well. A bit actorish, certainly, but with enthusiasm and skill. The actor walks to the back of the theater to listen.
It was 9:30 on Christmas Eve. As I opened my front door and stepped outside, I smelled at once, and with a lightening heart, that there had been a change in the weather. All the previous week, we had a thin, chill rain and a mist that lay low about the house and over the countryside. My spirits have, for many years, been excessively affected by the weather. But now the dampness and fogs had stolen away like thieves into the night. The sky was pricked over with stars, and the full moon rimmed with a halo of frost. Upstairs, 3 children slept with stockings tied to their bedpost. There was something in the air that night. But my peace of mind was about to be disturbed, and memories awakened that I had thought forever dead. I had, naturally, no idea that I should ever again renew my acquaintance with the mortal dread and terror of spirit would have seemed at that moment impossible. I took a last look at the frosty darkness, sighed contentedly, and went in to the happy company of my family. At the far end of the room stood the tree, candlelit and decked, and beneath it were the presents. There were vases of white chrysanthemums, and in the center of the room, a pyramid of gilded fruit in a bowl of oranges stuck all about with cloves, their spicy scent filling the air and mingling with the wood smoke to be the very aroma of Christmas. I became aware that I had interrupted the others in a lively conversation. We are telling ghost stories, just the thing for Christmas Eve. And so they were, vying with each other to tell the horridest, most spine-chilling tale. They told of dripping stone walls in uninhabited castles, and of ivy-clad monasteries, ruins by moonlight, of locked inner rooms and secret dungeons, dark carnal houses and overgrown graveyards, howlings and shriekings, groanings and scuttlings. This was a sport, a high-spirited and harmless game among young people. There was nothing to torment and trouble me, nothing of which I could possibly disapprove. I did not want to seem a killjoy, old, stodgy, and unimaginative. I turned my head away so that none of them should see my discomfiture. And now it's your turn. Oh no, I said. Nothing from me. You must know at least one ghost story. Everyone knows one. Oh yes, yes indeed. All the time I had been listening to their ghoulish, lurid inventions, and the one thought that had been in my mind, the only thing that I could have said was no. No, none of you have any idea. This is all nonsense, fantasy. It's not like this. Nothing so blood-curdling and decrepit and crude, not so laughable. The truth, quite other, and altogether more terrible. I'm sorry to disappoint you, I said, but I have no story to tell, and went quickly from the room and from the house. I walked in a frenzy of agitation, my heart pounding, my breathing short. I had always known in my heart that the experience would never leave me, that it was woven into my very fibers. Yes, I had a story, a true story, a story of haunting and evil, fear and confusion, horror and tragedy, but what was not a story to be told around the fireside on Christmas Eve.
Pause. Kip looks out to the actor at the back of the theater.
And then I thought you might recite that piece from Hamlet.
Hamlet?
Some say that ever against the season comes.
Oh, yes, yes, of course. You then, for the purpose of the reading, become me?
Quite so. And you, for the purpose of the performance, you draw on your remembrance to be the people that you met, that those that played their parts in your story.
Sir, I am not a performer.
Sir, I know.
And this must not be entertainment. This most horrible event will not be treated as an amusement for diversion. I insist, sir.
And I insist that you consider your audience, no matter how horrible. If your tale is to be heard, it must be offered in a form that is remotely palatable. You have come for advice and assistance. You must trust me. From here, if you please.
The actor climbs reluctantly onto the stage.
And let us show that we mean business.
Kip switches off the workers, leaving them in a performance state.
So your cue is fear and confusion, horror and tragedy, but was not a story to be told around the fireside on Christmas Eve.
Some say that ever against the season comes wherein our Saviour's birth is celebrated. This bird of dawning singeth all night long. And then they say no spirit dare stir abroad. The nights are wholesome, then no planets strike. No fairy takes, nor witch hath power to charm. So hallowed and so gracious is that time.
Those lines came into my head as if from heaven, and a great peace came upon me. I recalled that the way to banish an old ghost that continues its hauntings is to exorcise it. Well then, mine should be exorcised. I should tell my tale. I should set it down on paper with every care and in every detail. I would write my own ghost story, and then that they might know and that I might be forever purged of it, relive it through the tale telling. I prayed a heartfelt, simple prayer for peace of mind and for strength and steadfastness to endure while I completed the most agonizing task. The first part, the writing, I have done. Now comes the telling. I pray for God's protection on us all.
Blackout. The actor exits. The lights come up. It's the workers' state again, though the house lights are now down and remain so for the rest of the evening. Kip is on stage, arranging the clutter of furniture in some order that can pass for a solicitor's office. The skip suggests a large partner's desk. The actor enters.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I trust you slept well.
Thank you, yes.
No nightmares?
Not too bad, thank you.
Ah, so we are not clear of it yet.
I fear I never will be.
We'll have you playful as a lamb again. You mark my words. Did you study as I asked you?
Yeah, as best I can. You must excuse me, it is not my forte.
We'll make an Irving of you yet.
I have no wish to be an Irving.
No, but for the sake of your audience, let's at least try.
This audience you speak of, it is to be just my family and friends. You don't intend to make a public spectacle.
Heavens, no. Your family, your friends, perhaps the odd theatre manager. But now then, scene. London. Interior of the offices of solicitors of Bentley, Haig, Sweetman, and Bentley. And I have a little surprise for you.
What's that?
Thank you, Mr. Bunce.
He clicks his fingers to the back of the theater. Instantly comes the sound effect of a London street. Cars, horses, shouts from street vendors, etc. The actor is momentarily amazed. He listens for a while, then...
Recorded sound.
Precisely. A remarkable invention, is it not?
Extraordinarily true to life. I could swear I was in London Street, attempting to negotiate the thundering traffic.
And so, Mr. Kipps, will our audience? No need to speak of cars and trams and horses, smoke and grime. No need, in fact, for words. Just let the recorded sound be heard, and there they are, transported.
But the scene is to be in an office, is it not? Why do we have London's traffic flowing through an office?
Why, indeed. Mr. Bunce!
At once, the traffic sound begins to fade and dissolves into sonorous ticking of a long case clock.
Remarkable.
The clock fades out. The street sounds return.
The miracle of science, the hands of Bunce. He is particularly good at this sort of thing, and so to work. I am you, you are your clerk. I enter briskly, you are already at work.
You must forgive me. This is not
Your forte, quite. And it won't become so unless you attempt it. Begin, just as we went through it all last night.
Calling to the back of the theater.
I thank you.
The London street sound gives way to the sonorous clock. Kipps exits. The actor, alias Holmes the clerk, stands working at a ledger. His desk might be the stool or a pile of boxes. Whatever, it suggests discomfort. Kipps enters briskly. He tosses his briefcase on the desk and sits. Kipps has learned his part. The actor struggles manfully, reading from the manuscript. The conceit is that although the actor is unaccomplished, his enthusiasm for the task will grow through the early part of the enactment, in spite of his protestations.
A foul day, Tones.
Yes, Mr. Kipps.
November, the dreariest month of the year, lowering to the spirits.
Yes, Mr. Kipps. This fog don't help.
The thickest of London pea soupers. A yellow fog, a filthy, evil-smelling fog, a fog that choked and blinded, smeared and stained. I worked at some dull details of the conveying of property leases, forgetful for the moment of it pressing against the window like a furred beast at my back.
Tom leaves his ledger, moves to Kip's desk and knocks on it. Kipps looks up.
Mr. Bentley wishes to see you, sir.
Straight away.
Straight away, sir, if you would.
That sniff, incidentally, occurred every 20 seconds, for which reason Holmes was confined in general to a cubbyhole in an outer lobby.
Kipps stands.
What now?
Now you become Bentley.
Oh, yes, of course. Do I do all right? Will it pass?
Excellent. We'll make an Irving of you.
Will you be quiet about Irving?
Apologies. Carry on.
The actor sits to the other side of the desk from Kipps, becoming Mr. Bentley as he does so. He polishes his glasses.
You sit down, Arthur. Sit ye down.
Kipps sits. Bentley spreads himself in a relaxed way, taking his time before he speaks.
I don't think I ever told you about the extraordinary Mrs. Drablow.
Kipps shakes his head.
Ah, Mrs. Drablow.
He takes out her will and waves it at Kipps.
Mrs. Alice Drablow of Eel Marsh House. Dead, don't you know?
Ah.
Yes. I inherited Mrs. Drablow from my father. The family has had their business with this firm for
Oh, yes.
a good age, 87.
And it's her will you have there, I take it.
Mrs. Drablow was, as they say, a rumman. Have you ever heard of the Nine Lives Causeway?
No, never.
Oh, nor ever of the Eel Marsh in Denvershire.
No, sir.
Nor, I suppose, ever visited that county at all.
I'm afraid not.
Living there, anyone might become rum.
I've only a hazy idea of where it is.
Oh, then, my boy, go home and pack your bags and take the afternoon train from King's Cross, changing at Crewe. And you get at Homerby. From Homerby, you will take the branch line to the little market town of Crithen Gifford. After that, it's a wait for the tide.
The tide?
You can only cross the causeway at low tide. That takes you on to Eel Marsh at the house.
Mrs. Drablow's.
When the tide comes in, you're cut off until it's low again. Remarkable place. Years since I went there, of course. My father took me. She didn't greatly care for visitors,
Was she a widow?
since quite early in her marriage.
Children?
Children.
He rubs at the window panes as a church bell tolls in the distance. He turns.
According to everything we've been told about Mrs. Drablow, no. There were no children.
Did she have a great deal of money or land?
Well, she owned a house, of course, and a few properties in Crith and Gifford, shops with tenants, that sort of thing. There's a poor sort of half underwater. And there are the usual small trusts and investments.
Then it all sounds pretty straightforward.
It does it not?
May I ask why I'm to go there?
Well, to represent this firm at our client's funeral.
Oh, yes, of course. I'll be very glad to go to Mrs. Drablow's funeral, naturally.
There's a bit more to it than that.
The will?
I'll let you have the details to read on your journey, but principally, you're to go through Mrs. Drablow's documents, her private papers, whatever they may be, wherever they may be, and bring them to the office.
I see.
Mrs. Drablow was somewhat disorganized, shall I say. It may take you a while.
A day or two?
At least a day or two, Arthur.
Will there be anyone there to help me?
I've made arrangements. There's a local man dealing with it all. He'll be in touch with you.
But presumably she had friends or even neighbors.
Neil Marsh House is far from any neighbor.
And being a rumman, she never made friends, I suppose.
Come, Arthur, look on the bright side. Treat the whole thing as a jaunt.
Kip stands, waving his hands towards the window.
At least it'll take you out of all this for a day or two. You'll reach Crith and Gifford by late this evening. And there's a small hotel you can put up for tonight. The funeral is tomorrow morning at 11.
Bentley stands up and moves away from the desk.
I had to inform my landlady that I would be away a couple of nights, and to scribble a note to my fiancée Stella, to whom I'd hoped to be married the following year. After that, I was to catch the afternoon train to a remote corner of England, of which, until a few moments ago, I had barely heard.
The actor, now as Tomes, approaches Kipps with a thick brown envelope marked Drablow.
The Drablow papers, sir.
Thank you. I must say, Tomes, for all it's a strange part of the world I'm going to, that it's a relief to be leaving this appalling fog and unhealthy atmosphere.
Tomes sniffs and goes. Pause. Kipps looks across at the actor.
And you still feel unsure whether to go through with this?
Oh, certainly.
In spite of having just performed as you have done.
Oh, there are so many things we cannot represent. How do we represent the dog, the sea, the causeway? How the pony in the trap?
With imagination, Mr. Kipps. Ours and our audiences.
I would be obliged if you could inform me how imagination will create a pony and a trap upon this stage.
Kipps, with alacrity, swings the skip into position and on the audience.
Here, trap. Here, pony. What could be clearer?
It doesn't instantly say trap to me.
But you ride it, don't you? And with a whip. And with recorded sound of a pony's hooves, I promise nothing in the world could say it clearer.
Except a pony and a trap.
Let's us not be finicky, Mr. Kipps.
I have to own the recorded sound is splendid. It was a great surprise to me.
And it does not stop now. There shall be more, much more. Tomorrow we are on the train with more surprises. So now to work.
He hands him some pages.
You will study these. I have divided up the lines again, and you will see I have cut much of the descriptive passages.
But...
Recorded sound, Mr. Kipps, recorded sound.
The lights fade to blackout. When they come up again, Kipps has a traveling bag, and from the sounds of steam trains and general bustle, we are where he's at King's Cross Station. The actor reads from his manuscript now with more confidence.
Nothing could raise his spirits more than the sight of this great cavern of a railway station, glowing like the interior of a blacksmith forge.
Kipps arranges his compartment and sits. He reads a newspaper.
Beyond the windows, it is quickly dark, and when the carriage blinds are down, all is as cozy and enclosed as some lamplit study.
There are sounds of a steam train heading north. Kipps, in great contentment, reads his newspaper and looks out the window. After a while, the train slows down and draws to a halt as we hear, "This is Crew station. Passengers for Homerby, please change here." During the next speech, the actor puts on a greatcoat and hat.
At Crew, he changes with ease
Kipps swaps his seat.
and continues on his way, noting that the track begins to veer towards the east, as well as heading north. It is only when he comes to change again,
Kipps swaps his seat again.
on the branch line at the small station at Homerby, that he begins to be less comfortable, for here the air is a great deal colder and blowing in gusts from the east with an unpleasant rain upon its breath. And the train in which he is to travel the last hour of his journey is ancient and comfortless.
Kipps turns up his collar and rubs his hands against the cold. The actor walks along the platform, sees Kipps, and climbs in by him as the guard's whistle blows.
It's a poor night.
Samuel Daly nods agreement. The actor is still reading at this stage, though becoming freer in performance.
It seems I have exchanged one kind of poor weather for another. I left London in the grip of an appalling fog, and up here it seems to be cold enough for snow.
It's not snow. The wind will blow itself out, the rain off. The wind will blow itself out and take the rain off with it by morning.
I'm very glad to hear it.
But if you think you've escaped the fog by coming up here, you're mistaken. We get bad frets in this part of the world.
Frets?
Aye. Frets. Sea frets. Sea mists. They roll up in a minute from the sea to land across the marshes. 1 minute it's as clear as a June day. The next, terrible. But if you're staying in Crichton, you won't see the worst of it.
I stay there tonight at the Griffith Arms. I expect to go out and see something of the marshes later.
He picks up his newspaper, nods at Samuel Daly, and begins to read. The train puffs on a while.
Mrs. Droblow.
Kipps looks up at him.
A Droblow.
He points at the envelope. Kipps nods.
You don't tell me you're a relative.
I am her solicitor.
Ah, bound for the funeral.
I am.
Ah, you'll be about the only one that is.
I gather she was something of a recluse. Well, that is something with the way with old ladies. They turn inwards, grow eccentric. I suppose it comes from living alone.
I dare say that it does, Mr.
Kipps. Arthur Kipps.
Ah, Samuel Daly.
They nod.
And when you live alone in such a place as that, it comes a good deal easier.
Come, you're not going to start telling me strange tales of lonely houses.
No, I am not.
Well, all I can say is that it's a sad thing when someone lives for 87 years and can't count upon a few friendly faces to gather together at the... How far have we to go?
12 miles. It's a far-flung part of the world. We
I
don't get
suppose-
many visitors.
I suppose because there's nothing much to see.
Oh, it all depends on what you mean by nothing. But you'll find everything hospitable enough in Crichton for all it's a plain little place. We tuck ourselves in with our backs to the wind and carry on with our business.
He takes a card from his wallet and hands it to Kipps.
Should you need anyone?
Thank you. I doubt I shall. Whatever practical help I'm sure the local agent will provide, and I don't intend to be here more than a day or two.
Daly looks at him in silence.
But thanks all the same.
He puts the card into his waistcoat pocket. The train swells to a crescendo as the lights fade to a blackout. Then, as it whistles, snaps off. When the lights come up again, Kipps is arranging the furniture, making a hotel lounge. The actor has moved off to the side of the stage and is donning an apron.
The Gifford Arms was as comfortable a hotel as I could have wished to find.
Kipps looks around him approvingly, settles in an armchair, and holds his hands to the fire. There's a murmur of voices from the public bar.
My spirits rose, and I began to feel more like a man on holiday than one come to attend the funeral.
He takes out a notepaper and pen and begins to write.
My dearest Stella.
But at this, the landlord enters to interrupt him.
Oh, are you a friend of Mr. Daly's then, sir?
No.
Ah, not meaning to pry, only I saw you arrive in his card.
I met him on the train. He was kind enough to bring me from the station.
I see. He's a large landowner, is Mr. Daly, buying up off the county.
Oh, in that case, I may be doing business with him myself before the year's out. I'm a solicitor looking after the affairs of Mrs. Alice Drablow of Eel Marsh House. Perhaps Who of her?
Ah. I knew of her.
It's quite possible that her estate will come up for sale in due course.
I doubt whether even Samuel Daly would go so far.
I don't think I fully understand you. I gather there's a farm at a few miles out of town.
Hoggets, 50 acres and half of it under flood for the best part of the year. Hoggets is nothing.
There's also Eel Marsh House and the land surrounding it. Would that be practicable for farming?
No, sir.
Well, might not Mr. Daly simply want to add a little more to his empire? You imply he is that kind of man.
Maybe he is. But let me tell you that you won't be finding anybody, not even Mr. Sam Daly, having to do with any of it. I'll wish you good night, sir. We can serve breakfast at any time in the morning to your convenience.
The landlord abruptly leaves Kipps. A moment, then Kipps resumes his letter. We hear his words as a voiceover. His tone is slightly tetchy.
There seems to be a propensity for leaving conversations to hang in the air whenever Mrs. Dablow's name is mentioned. People close up, change the subject, or leave the room. I suppose it's inevitable. These small, out-of-the-way communities have only themselves to look to for whatever drama and mystery they can extract out of life. And I would think it not unfair to say that country people, particularly those who inhabit the remoter corners of our island, are rather more superstitious, more gullible, more slow-witted perhaps, certainly more unsophisticated than those of us who encounter the metropolitan experience every day. Doubtless, in such a place as this, with its eerie marshes, sudden fogs, moaning winds, and lonely houses, any poor old woman might be looked at askance. Once upon a time, after all, she would have been branded as a witch.
The lights crossfade to the worker state. Kipps, no longer acting, sits in a chair and talks across to the actor.
Admit it, Mr. Kipps. Secretly, you are enjoying this.
I am very grateful to you for your assistance. I cannot say I am enjoying it.
Mr. Kipps, every day you have come here and you have grown in stature and confidence.
But this is merely practice, what you call rehearsal. I fear it will be different altogether before an audience.
Mr. Kipps, sir.
Yes?
For all you deny it, you damn well will be an Irving. Now then, tomorrow, I should like to work right through to the end.
In one?
If we are able. How does that seem?
I have a horror of it. Watching you as if I relive it all, moment by moment. Though you, of course, will never suffer as I did. I must always tell myself that.
Kipps moves to him and gently takes his hand.
But never think that I don't feel for you. I have a child myself.
You have?
A daughter. She's 4.
And well, is she happy?
I thank Providence.
Love her. Take care of her. Well, tomorrow. Yes. Let us work to the end, and all being well, tomorrow I shall have a surprise for you.
Excellent. You have a theatrical's instinct, Mr. Kipps, if not his enthusiasm. Till tomorrow, then.
Kipps moves to go as the lights fade to blackout. The lights come up to suggest the dawning of a crisp, clear day, and we hear the hubbub of the marketplace as Kipps attaches a black armband to his sleeve. The actor, as Mr. Jerome, comes up to Kipps. Like Kipps, he wears a black tie and armband. The actor has learned his words and is no longer reading.
Ah, Mr. Kipps.
Yes, indeed.
Mr. Jerome, your agent here.
Of course. How do you do?
I trust you spent a comfortable night.
I can't remember a night I've slept so well.
Good. It's a sad business that brings you here.
Yes, of course. I never met Mrs. Drablow.
No, of course. I don't wish to hurry you, Mr. Kipps, but if we were to step out now, we'd be about right for time.
Oh, yes, of course.
They step into the sunshine. Now the market noises intensify. Kipps looks about him.
I must say, my first impressions of your little town are entirely favorable, Mr. Jerome.
It's a busy day for us, market day. They come from all over.
Though I'd like to experience it in happier circumstances. Our funeral garb seems at odds with the prevailing mood of the place.
The market noises lull.
Is it my imagination, or are we the subject of scrutiny, Mr. Jerome?
Jerome does not reply.
There! Those men, do you see? They turned away when they caught my eye, and there!
It's only a short walk to the graveyard, Mr. Kipps.
I feel like some kind of pariah.
Jerome doesn't speak.
Oh, well, I suppose we must look like a pair of gloomy ravens amongst all of this, mustn't we? You and I, Mr. Jerome, are the specters at the feast.
He smiles across at Jerome, who doesn't acknowledge him. The market hubbub fades, now their footsteps echo as they walk on. The lights dim slightly as if filtered through the spreading trees. They walk on.
I take it she is to be buried in the churchyard?
That is so, yes.
Is there a family grave?
Jerome glances at Kipps closely.
No. At least not here. Not in this churchyard.
Somewhere else?
It is no longer in use. The area is unsuitable.
I'm afraid I don't quite understand.
But Jerome carries on walking. The lights suggest the interior of the church as we hear the following voiceover.
I know that my Redeemer liveth, and that he shall stand at the latter day upon the earth. And though after my skin worms destroy this body, yet in my flesh shall I see God, whom I shall see for myself, and mine eyes shall behold, and not another.
This is followed by the echoing tread of the undertaker's men bearing the coffin down the aisle. Both Kipps and Jerome turn upstage. The voiceover fades in again with the priest's voice.
Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. And the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed.
As the voiceover continues, Kipps looks back into the audience. In the center aisle stands the woman in black. Her clothes are black, old-fashioned. She wears a black bonnet that partially obscures her face, though, from what remains of it to be seen, she appears to suffer from some terrible wasting disease. She's extremely pale. The thinnest layer of flesh is tautly stretched across her bones, and her eyes seem sunken back into her head. Kipps is clearly momentarily shocked to see her, then steadies himself. The actor does not look back at her, and we can believe he does not see her, nor know she's here.
For this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality. So when this corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass, saying that is written. Death is swallowed up in victory. O death, where is there thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory?
Kipps pulls his eyes from her. As he turns away, she moves back down the aisle.
But thanks be to God, which giveth us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. Therefore, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, for as much as ye know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord.
The church gives way to the graveyard. Jerome and Kipps stand as if looking into the grave over the edge of the stage. Birdsong is heard, dissolving once again into the priest's voice.
Man that is born of woman hath but a short time to live, and is full of misery. He cometh up, and is cut down like a flower. He fleeth as if it were a shadow, and never continueth in one stay.
The woman in black enters behind the two of them upstage.
In the midst of life, we are in death. Of whom may we seek for succor but of thee, O Lord, who for our sins art justly displeased?
Kipps, sensing her presence, looks around. Again, the actor does not see her.
For as much as it hath pleased Almighty God of his great mercy to take unto himself the soul of our dear sister here departed, we therefore commit her body to the ground, earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
The voiceover fades down. Kipps turns away from the woman in black and kneels to pray fervently at the graveside. The woman in black moves away. The voiceover dissolves into birdsong. At length, Kipps crosses himself and steps back from the grave.
Very poignant ceremony.
Jerome is silent.
Tell me, that woman, I hope she can find her own way home. She looked so dreadfully unwell. Who was she?
Jerome looks at him.
The young woman with the wasted face, behind us, behind you in the church, and then in the graveyard here, a few yards from us.
A young woman.
Yes, yes, with the skin stretched over her bones. I could scarcely bear to look at her. She was tall. To a bonnet type of hat, I suppose, trying to conceal as much as she could of her face, poor thing.
Jerome looks frozen pale, his throat moving as if he were unable to utter.
Is there anything the matter? You look unwell.
I did not see a young woman.
But surely...
He turns. The woman in black appears again.
Look, there she is again. Ought we not to...
Jerome grabs at his wrist, evidently in extreme of terror. He avoids looking where Kipps is pointing. Kipps looks at him in astonishment. The woman in black goes.
Mr. Jerome, can you take my arm? I would be obliged if you would loosen your grip a little, if you could just walk a few steps back to the church path. I saw a bench there a little way inside the gate. You can rest and recover while I go for help, a car.
No!
But my dear man...
No! I apologize. I am so sorry. It was nothing. A passing faintness. It will be best if you could just walk back with me towards my office on Penn Street, off the square.
If you are sure.
Quite sure. Come.
You quite worried me just now.
Oh, please. I apologize. It was nothing. Nothing at all.
Very well. I gather you are to take me over to Eel Marsh House later?
No, I shall not go there. You can cross any time after 1 o'clock. Keckwick will come for you. He has always been the go-between to that place. I take it you have a key.
Kipps nods.
You will find Mr. Keckwick perfectly obliging.
Good.
Though not very communicative.
Oh, I am getting very used to that.
Kipps clicks his fingers towards the back of the theater. The lights change to the worker state again.
I'm sorry, Mr. Kipps. I have to stop.
He shakes the actor's hand, looking fervently into his eyes.
You said you had a surprise for me. I had no idea it would be that.
No?
That was the most remarkable coup de théâtre I've ever experienced.
The actor is changing into a greatcoat, cap, and high riding boots.
No, really?
I'm devastated. Devastated. How did you manage it?
Well, I worked hard, I suppose. As you said, time and tears.
But from nowhere, Mr. Kipps. It was miraculous. How on earth did you set about it?
No,
very well. I understand. One must appreciate the magic. One must not ask how the magic works. But I do appreciate it.
He pumps the actor's hand.
I assure you, sir, I do. Quite remarkable and terrifying.
Well, you're very kind, sir.
And you, sir, are a true theatrical.
The actor modestly reacts. A pause.
Do we proceed?
If you wish.
And will there be more surprises?
I'll do my best, though I cannot be altogether confident.
Kipps gives the actor's hand a final fervent shake, then signals to the back of the theater. The lights revert to a performance state. There is the sound effect of a pony and trap as Kipps puts on the more relaxed clothes. When dressed, the actor picks up a riding crop, places the skip end on the audience, and sits facing out front. Kipps looks at him as we hear the pony draw to a halt, and the actor, as Keckwick, reins in. Kipps, after digesting the sight a moment, turns away as if looking for a car.
Mr. Kipps?
Yes?
Keckwick says nothing, looks ahead.
You're not Mr. Keckwick by any chance?
Keckwick nods.
Oh, hang on. Oh, that's delightful. I was expecting a car.
Kipps climbs up behind Keckwick, who clucks at the pony, which then sets off.
This is a remarkable corner of the world, Mr. Keckwick. Sky, and only a strip of land. This must be how those great landscape painters saw Holland or the area around Norwich, don't you think?
Keckwick does not respond.
No clouds at all today, though I can imagine how magnificently that huge, brooding area of sky would look with gray, scudding rain and storm clouds blowing over the estuary.
They drive on a while in silence, Kipps continuing to gaze about him.
It is quite startlingly beautiful, the wide, bare openness of it. The sense of space, the vastness of the sky. I would have traveled 1,000 miles to see this. I've never imagined such a place.
They trot on, the silence broken by nothing but the sounds of the pony and occasional, harsh, weird cries from the birds. Kipps kneels up on the skip, alert, looking ahead.
And that, I take it, is the 9 Lives Causeway.
The lights isolate Kips, and we hear the pony entrap as it rolls across.
Ahead, the water gleamed like metal, lying only shallow over the sand. A narrow track led directly forwards, and I saw how, when the tide came in, it would quickly be submerged and untraceable. Then I looked up ahead and saw, as if rising out of the water itself, a tall, gaunt house of gray stone with a slate roof.
The lights come up on stage. Kekwik reins in the pony and dismounts.
It stood like some lighthouse or beacon or Martello Tower, the most astonishingly situated house I had ever seen or could ever conceivably have imagined. Isolated, uncompromising, but also, I thought, handsome. For a moment or two, I simply sat looking about me in amazement. I felt a strange sensation and excitement mingled with alarm. But I was not afraid. Of what could I be afraid in this rare and beautiful spot? The wind, the marsh birds crying, reeds and still water?
Suddenly he moves to Kekwik.
How long will the causeway remain passable?
Till 5.
Listen, it will be quite ridiculous for you to be driving to and fro twice a day. The best thing will be for me to bring my bags and some food and drink and stay a couple of nights here. That way I shall finish the business a good deal more efficiently and you will not be troubled. I'll return with you later this afternoon, and then tomorrow perhaps you could bring me back as early as possible according to the tides.
A considerable pause until Kekwik nods his agreement.
Or perhaps you would prefer to wait here for me now, though I shall be a couple of hours. You know what suits you best.
For a reply, Kekwik climbs up on the skip and flicks his whip. We hear the pony's hooves across the gravel, fading into the distance. The lights isolate Kekwik and gradually fade along with the pony's hooves. The actor climbs off the skip as the lights bounce back. He takes off his cap and undoes his coat as he speaks.
And so, imagine if you would, this stage an island, this isle a causeway running like a ribbon from the salt marsh through the sea, the only link between the gaunt gray house and land. Imagine Arthur Kipps alone here now, a tiny figure, lost in the immensity and wideness of the marsh and sky, dwarfed by the house, alone amid the mysterious, shimmering beauty. He feels the key in his pocket, but does not go inside. Instead, he walks away from the house towards the fragmentary ruins of some old church or chapel. To the west, on his right hand, the sun is already beginning to slip down in a great, wintry, golden red ball. To the east, sea and sky have darkened slightly to a uniform, leaden gray.
Kip scrambles across the skip and through the gauze. The lights reveal the shrouded furniture. A sudden harsh cry from the bird startles him. We hear its loud beating wings and the echo of its cry amongst the ruins. Kipps watches it fly away.
Imagine now a burial ground. Imagine 50 gravestones, most of them leaning or completely fallen, covered in lichens, mosses, scoured pale by the salt wind, stained by years of driving rain. Names and dates are now barely decipherable. Imagine him grown conscious of the cold, the bleakness and the eeriness of the spot. Decide to leave, to go back to the house, to switch on a good many lights, to light a fire. Now see him turn.
Kipps turns. The woman in black appears ahead of him. Involuntarily, Kipps steps back a pace or two, then stands as if frozen. The woman in black is amongst what we think of as the gravestones. It's not clear that she stares at Kipps, nor that she doesn't. The moment is held in silence. Then the woman slips away and out of sight. As soon as she does, Kipps rushes after her to look the way she's gone. He stands at the exit, searching with his eyes, then at length moves back through the gauze. The actor, meanwhile, has not looked upstage.
Beyond the wall, the grass gave way within a yard or two to sand and shallow waters. The marshes and the salt flats stretched away until they all merged with the rising tide. I could see for miles. There was no sign at all of the woman in black, nor any place in which she could have concealed herself. I did not believe in ghosts.
There's the sound effect of Kipps running, the thud of his footsteps, the panting of his breath.
By the time he reaches the house, he is in a lather of sweat from his exertions and the extremes of his emotions.
We hear the doors of the house slam shut.
For a long time, he does not move from the dark wood-paneled hall. He wants company, and he has none. He wants lights. He needs reassurance. But more than anything else, he needs an explanation. For he does not believe in ghosts.
But out of the marshes just now, I saw a woman whose form was quite substantial, yet, oh God, I cannot describe it.
He moves to sit. He takes a moment to compose himself.
The expression on her face, desperate, yearning malevolence, filled me with indescribable loathing and fear. She vanished in a way that no living human being could possibly manage to do. I did not believe in ghosts.
A clock begins to strike deep in the house.
What other explanation is there?
Hall, staircase, kitchen, scullery.
He switches on a light. The bulb is weak.
Drawing room, sitting room, dining room, study.
Nothing unpleasant. No shades of Miss Havisham. No rubbish piled in corners. No half-starved dogs or cats. A damp, musty, sweet, sour smell there is. But is that remarkable in a house situated as this one? Furniture, good, solid, dark, old-fashioned. Books, pictures, bureau.
Kipps opens the skip and takes out bundles of documents, scattering them about him as the actor speaks.
Bureau, desks, writing tables, bureau, papers in bundles, in boxes, letters, receipts, legal documents, notebooks, papers, all of which he must examine. A huge task, and one which there is little point in starting now. It is too late, and he is too unnerved.
We see Kipps find a bottle of brandy, which he considers opening, then replaces.
How could one old woman have endured day after day, night after night, in this house? I could not conceive. I should have gone mad.
He decides to leave the place till the following morning. It will be an hour before Keckwick returns, and if he steps out, well, he will be back at Criffin Gifford in time to save him from turning out. The causeway is still visible, the roads back are straight, and he cannot possibly lose himself.
Kipps switches off the lights and locks up. Again, the sound of the door slamming shut.
Imagine him now, striding ahead, small and insignificant in that vast landscape. As he walks, he summons up the image of the black-robed figure.
Kipps looks over his shoulder.
Persuades himself she had not vanished as he'd thought, but that there must have been some slope or dip in which she had concealed herself, for he does not believe in ghosts. He puts her from his mind, walks on, struck by the absolute indifference of the sky and water to his presence. Then, from this reverie, he becomes aware he cannot see for more than a few yards ahead.
Kipps registers this in the dimming light. He turns.
And that behind him, Eel Marsh House is quite invisible.
A thick, damp sea mist, damp, clinging, cobwebby, fine, and impenetrable. The sea fret Mr. Daly talked of.
He must turn, retrace his steps to the house, and wait till Keckwick comes for him.
The lights have dimmed to virtual darkness.
The mist was salty, light and pale and moving in front of my eyes all of the time. I felt confused, teased by it, as though it were made up of millions of live fingers that crept over me, hung onto me, and then shifted away again.
Step by slow step he goes, baffled by the moving, shifting mist, praying to reach the house. A nightmare walk until...
Fade up on the sound of a pony and trap. Kipps turns in evident relief as the sound fades down, changes its apparent direction, swirls and fades off as if carried by the mist.
Keckwick!
The sound grows near, then recedes. Kipps is baffled by it. At one moment seems to locate it in the fog, the next is utterly disorientated. At length, the noise of the pony and trap fade altogether, and away on the marsh is a draining, sucking, churning sound, which goes on, together with the shrill neighing and whinnying of a horse in panic. Then another cry, a shout, a terrified sobbing. It's hard to decipher, though it's clear it comes from a young child. Kipps struggles blindly forward a few steps.
Oh no, oh no, 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 Keckwick!
Blackout. In the darkness, we hear the front door slam. When the lights return, Kipps is on stage in the house, clearly in shock. From the skip, he takes out the bottle of brandy and a glass and pours himself a largish measure. He sits for a moment. He jumps up and feverishly starts to walk about the house again, rummaging through rooms and furniture.
In despair and fearfulness, he goes about the house, switching on every light he can make work, in the vain hope that their glow might be seen across the misty wasteland.
Every door was open, every room orderly, dusty, bitterly cold and damp, yet also somehow stifling.
Kipps arrives at the closed door. He stops.
One door is locked.
At the far end of the passage that led away from 3 bedrooms on the 2nd floor, there was no keyhole, no bolt on the outside.
He rattles it and kicks at it angrily, beating it with his fists. Then, as his anger subsides, he slides, sobbing, to the floor. The actor is now dressed as Keckwick. He stands at the foot of the steps as the doorbell rings. Kipps slowly comes out of his sleep, evidently unrefreshed, stiff in his limbs, staggering to answer the bell. The light outside is now full moonlight, which shines on the causeway and the actors. Kipps, on seeing Keckwick, seems bewildered.
You have to wait with a fret like that to clear itself. There's no crossing over while the fret's up. Unlucky for you, that was. And after that, there's the wait for the tide. Awkward place. You'll be finding that out fast enough.
What time is it?
Oh, nigh on 2.
I wouldn't have expected you to come back at this hour. It's very good of you.
I wouldn't have left you over the night. Wouldn't have done that to you.
But what happened to you? How do you manage to be here? How did you get out?
Keckwick looks a long moment into Kip's face. Then he climbs on the trap once more. Kipps climbs up. We hear the pony and trap set off.
I fell into a sort of trance, half sleeping, half waking, rocked by the motion of the cart. I knew I had entered some hitherto unimagined realm of consciousness, and that there was no going back. That the woman by the graves had been ghostly, I now not believed, no, knew. Her certainty lay deep within me, and I began to suspect the pony and trap with a child who had cried out so terribly, and which had been sucked into the quicksands. They too had not been real, not there, present, not substantial, but ghostly also. What I had heard as clearly as now I hear the roll of the cart and the drumming of the pony's hooves, and what I had seen, the woman with the pale, wasted face by the grave of Mrs. Drablow, and again in the old burial ground, I had seen. I would have sworn that on oath, yet they had been, in some sense I did not understand, unreal, ghostly things that were dead.
Curtain. Act 2. There is the sound of a busy market town. The actor, as Jerome, sits working at his desk. Kipps enters and knocks on his door. Jerome enters, evidently with reluctance.
Mr. Jerome.
Ah, yes. Won't you come in?
I trust you are fully recovered after your experience at Mrs. Drablow's funeral.
Thank you, yes. Thank you.
No doubt you're wondering why I'm here. You see, I had no idea, I don't know whether you had, of the volumes of papers belonging to Mrs. Drablow. Tons of the stuff, and most of it, I've no doubt, so much waste. But it will have to be gone through item by item nevertheless. It seems that unless I am able to take up residence in Crythan Gifford for the foreseeable future, I shall have to have some help.
Jerome's expression is one of panic. He shifts his chair back away from Kipps.
I'm afraid I can't offer you help, Mr. Kipps.
I wasn't thinking that you would do anything personally, but perhaps you have a young assistant.
There is no one. I am quite on my own.
Well, then help me
give any help at all.
Well, then help me find someone. Surely the town will yield me a young man with a modicum of intelligence and keen to earn a few pounds, whom I may take for the job.
I'm sorry. This is a small place. Young people leave. There are no openings.
But I am offering an opening, albeit temporary.
You will find no one suitable.
Mr. Jerome, what you mean is not that there is no one available, that no young person, or older person for that matter, could be found. You are backing away from speaking the truth of the matter, which is that I should not find a soul willing to spend any time out at Eel Marsh House for fear of the stories about that place proving true, for fear of encountering what I have already encountered.
Silence. At length, Jerome is in great agitation, moved to looks out of the window, his back to Kipps.
Keckwick came back for you.
Yes, I was more grateful than I can say.
There's nothing Keckwick doesn't know about Eel Marsh House.
Do I take it he fetched and carried sometimes, Mrs. Drablow?
She saw no one else, but...
Not another living soul.
There are stories. Tales. That's all that nonsense. You can discount most of it.
Of course, but not all.
You saw the woman in the churchyard.
I saw her again, in that old burial ground.
Jerome turns suddenly to face Kipps, clearly most distressed by the conversation. Kipps decides to spare his feelings.
Well, I'm not going to be put out by a ghost or several ghosts. Mr. Jerome, my work has to be done. And I doubt if the woman in black can have any animosity towards me. I wonder who she is. I hardly know how to refer to her. I must face it out, Mr. Jerome. Such things one must face.
So I said once.
The lights lose Jerome. Mr. Kipps looks with concern towards the actor, who, in agitation, is dressing as Sam Daly once again. Kipps moves to him.
Mr. Kipps, are you all right?
Yes. Yes, I am. Jerome was terrified.
But you, yourself, it would seem you are in a state of emotion.
I was. My emotions had become so volatile and so extreme that I was living in another dimension. My heart seemed to beat faster, my step to be quicker. Everything I saw was brighter, its outlines more sharply, precisely defined.
Can you go on?
Yes.
Can you go on until the end?
Oh, yes. Yes, I must. Let us go on. Let us have done with it, for God's sake.
He takes a few deep breaths and composes himself. Kipps approaches him.
Mr. Daly.
Mr. Kipps, how's things with you?
Very well, I thank you.
And your business?
Mrs. Drablow's estate? Oh, I shall soon have that all in order, though I confess there will be rather more to do than I had anticipated.
You have been out to the house?
Certainly. To tell you the truth, I'm enjoying myself. I'm finding the whole thing rather a challenge.
A long pause as Daly regards Kipps. Kipps shifts uneasily and glances away.
Mr. Kipps, you are whistling in the dark. You're a fool if you go on with it.
If you mean you think I should just give up the job I've been sent here to do, to turn tail and run.
Listen to me, Arthur. I'm not going to fill you up with a lot of women's tales. You'd find those out fast enough if you ask about the place. Maybe you already have.
No, only hints. And Mr. Jerome turning a little pale.
But you went out there to the house.
I went there, and I had an experience I shouldn't care to go through again, although I confess I can't explain it. It seems to me, Mr. Daly, that I have seen whatever ghost haunts Eel Marsh. A woman in black with a wasted face. Because I have no doubt at all that she was what people call a ghost, that she was not a real, living, breathing human being. Well, she did me no harm. She neither spoke nor came near me. I did not like her look, and I like the power that she seemed to emanate from her towards me even less. But I have convinced myself that it is a power that cannot do more than make me feel afraid. If I go there and see her again, I am prepared.
And the pony. And the trap.
So you know of that. I won't run away.
You shouldn't go there.
I'm afraid I'm going.
You shouldn't go there alone.
It seems I can find no one to come with me.
No, and you will not.
Good God, man. Mrs. Drablow lived alone there for, 60-odd years. To a ripe old age, she must have come to terms with all the ghosts about the place.
Aye. Maybe that's just what she did do. But you're set on it.
I am.
Then take a dog.
I haven't got a dog.
I have.
He whistles, then bends and pats the dog.
Tyker. Bring her back when you're done.
Will she come with me?
I shall do what I tell her.
Kips pets her.
What's her name?
Spider.
All right. I'll be glad of her company, I confess. Thank you. Come, girl, Spider.
Kips and the dog move out of the light.
Next morning, he crosses to the house on a bicycle lent him by his landlord. The little dog Spider bounds behind. The sun is high. The very air seems purified and more exhilarating.
There they lay, those glittering, beckoning silver marshes. I could hear the mysterious silence, and once again the haunting, strange beauty of it all aroused a deep response within me. I could not run away from that place. I had fallen under some sort of spell, the kind that certain places exude, and it drew me, my imaginings, my longings, my curiosity, my whole spirit towards itself.
The light suggests the house interior. The actor moves to the side of the stage into a position as physically removed from Kips as possible, perhaps even to the body of the theater.
He lights fires, airs sheets and blankets, opens windows, draws up blinds, and sets himself to work in one of the bays of the morning room.
Kips starts sorting the letters into piles, those to be dealt with, those to discard.
Well, Spider, have you ever seen a more worthless collection of papers? I do believe Mrs. Drablow kept every bill, receipt, and Christmas card she ever had. There's even shopping lists, would you believe?
It was pretty tedious going, but he persevered patiently enough, untying and cursorily examining bundle after bundle of worthless old papers before tossing them aside.
Kips works on a moment, then yawns and stretches. He stands, crosses the stage, and we hear the door slam. He whistles for the dog.
Spider, Spider, rabbits!
He moves throughout the gauze into the old graveyard.
Last time I was here among these graves, I saw a woman.
He bends to the dog.
Where is she, Spider? Where is she, girl?
He pats the dog, then stoops to decipher an inscription.
In loving memory, something net Humphrey, 1900 something, and of her something Eel Drablow.
He contemplates the stone for a moment, then whistles the dog.
Spider!
He returns to the house and to his task. Already the air is turning colder. The sky is losing its light.
We hear the door slam as Kips returns to his papers.
On into the evening he works. Spider is an excellent companion, and he is glad of her gentle breathing, her occasional scratching or clattering about in that big empty house. But his main sensation is one of tedium and a certain lethargy combined with the desire to finish the job, and he back in London with his dear Stella.
Kips sorts through the papers, discarding many, saving few as the lights fade. When they return, he's in the process of clearing his work for the night, putting things in piles on the floor.
Another day or two and we'll be done. It's time for bed. Come, Spider.
He moves by a circuitous route to his bed. He lies down, covering himself with the blanket he's found amongst the clutter. Before the lights go down, he reaches down to fondle the dog.
Would Mr. Daly let me take you home with me to London? I wonder. You'd like Stella. I'm not sure you'd like London. Good night now, good night.
And the lights fade to a blackout. Suddenly they return via a shaft of moonlight, and Kips immediately sits upright. Silence.
What is it, Spider? What is it?
Silence. Then from the depths of the house comes a sound like an intermittent bump or rumble. Kips listens, frozen. At length it stops. Slowly he climbs out of bed.
Good girl, good girl.
He moves away from his bed. The sound begins again. Kipps moves cautiously throughout the house. As he does, the moonlight appears and disappears through the many windows. Gradually, the sound gets louder as Kipps gets nearer until inevitably he's drawn to the closed door. The sound is at its loudest now. Kipps has not the courage to try the door, though it's evident that the source of the sound is behind it. He stands as if paralyzed outside. Then, from out on the marshes, comes the sound of a child's cry. Kipps swings around to listen.
He gropes his way back to his bedroom and looks out. There lie the marshes, silver gray and empty. There is the water of the estuary, flat as a mirror, with the full moon lying upturned upon it.
But nothing. No one, the slightest of breezes, nothing more.
The distant rumble from the room has now ceased. In silence, Kipps moves back through the house towards the room with the closed door. He reaches it. There is no sound now. He puts his hand onto the handle, hesitates, then turns it. It does not give. He pushes against it slightly with his shoulder. Nothing. Slowly, the dawn light filters up.
In the morning, he awakens to a change in the weather. When he looks out, he can hardly see the division between land and water, water and sky. All is uniform gray with low, thick cloud in a drizzle.
I cycled back to Crithen, Spider bounding behind me. There was a letter from Stella, full of exclamations of regret at my absence and pride in my responsibility. I had the landlord's wife refill my hamper, purchased a good strong torch, and with the letter warming my inside pocket, cycled back, whistling as I went.
He works through the day, clearing paper after paper. Then, after supper, as a diversion, begins to read some letters he had found.
They were dated between a February of about 60 years ago and the summer of the following year. They were sent first from the manor house of a village some 20 miles from here, and later from a lodge in Scotland. All were addressed to my dear or dearest Alice, and signed for the most part J, but occasionally Janet. The writer, a young woman and apparently a relative of Mrs. Strablow, was unmarried and with child. At first, she was living at home with her parents. Later, she was sent away.
In Scotland, a son is born to her, and she writes of him with a desperate, clinging affection. Pressure is being put on her to give up the child for adoption. She refuses, saying over and over again that they will never be parted.
As Kipps speaks the following, he's joined by the voiceover of a young woman repeating the same words. They speak the first sentences in unison, then Kipps leaves it to the voiceover.
He's mine. Why should I not have what is mine? We shall not go to strangers. I shall kill us both before I let him go.
And then the tone changes. What else can I do? I am quite helpless. If you and Morgan are to have him, I shall mind it less. I suppose it must be. But the last letter of all is written in a very small, cramped hand. Love him. Take care of him as your own. But he is mine, and he can never be yours. Oh, forgive me. I think my heart will break. J. In the same packet is a simple locket declaring that Nathaniel Pierston, infant son of Janet Humphrey, is become by adoption the child of Morgan Thomas Strablow of Eel Marsh House, Crythan Gifford, and of his wife, Alice.
Silence. Then Kipps suddenly swings around as if the dog is startled.
What is it, Spider?
Silence. Then the rhythmic bump, bump, pause. Bump, bump, pause. Kipps stands. He hesitates, then moves purposefully forwards. At once, from outside comes the sound of a pony and trap.
Stay with me, Spider. Stay with me.
He takes up the torch and moves outside. The lights fade, and the only light is from Kip's torch as the noise of the pony's hooves get louder and louder as if coming right up to the house. Just as it seems the vehicle must come into our sight, it veers off the causeway, and we hear, as before, the sounds of it submerging. The child's cry rises to a scream of terror, which is then choked and drowned. Silence. From the interior of the house, now distantly, we again hear the rhythmic bump, bump, pause. Kipps moves inside. A light illuminates the door, and as we look, we see it slowly open. The light is from outside the door, but not inside. Kipps approaches in fear and caution, then shines his torch inside. He walks through. The only light comes from this torch, and we see by it that the rocking chair is in motion, rocking backwards and forwards, apparently of its own volition, and that this is what we have heard, echoing on the floorboards. As he shines his torch on it, it rocks less and less until it stops.
But no one had been there. No one. There was no way out of the room except by the door I had come through, and no one had passed by me.
During the following, Kipps moves about the room, picking up occasional objects as they are mentioned.
It is a child's nursery. A bed in one corner, made up and all complete with pillows and sheets and counterpane. Beside it, on the table, a tiny wooden horse and a nightlight. In the chest of drawers are clothes, underclothes, day clothes, formal clothes, play clothes, clothes for a small boy of 6 or 7. Beautiful, well-made clothes in the style of 60 years or more ago. And toys, most neatly and meticulously ordered and cared for. Lead soldiers arranged in regiments, a farm set out with barns and fences, a model ship complete with masts and sails of linen, a whip, a spinning top, ludo, halma, draughts and chess, a monkey made of leather, a cat of wool, a furry bear, a bald doll with a china head and a sailor suit, pens and brushes, inks and dice, a miniature trumpet, a painted musical box from Switzerland, and a black doll with raggedy arms and legs.
They must have been here half a century. Yet they might have been played with this afternoon. There was nothing here to frighten or harm me. There was only emptiness, a curious air of sadness, of something lost, missing, so that I myself felt a desolation, a grief in my own heart. How can I explain it? I cannot. But I remember it as I felt it.
At length, he comes back out the door, finds a chair and sits. As he does, the wind begins to rise. Within a short time, it is roaring outside the house. Then, from the darkness outside, comes the child's cry of desperation and anguish. Kipps switches on the lights as the woman in black leaves the stage, momentarily glimpsed. Kipps swings around in horror. As he does so, a huge blast of wind hits the house and the lights go out. Kipps begins to grope about in panic.
The torch! God help me! The torch! Spider, where is it? Thank God,
He trips, the torch falls and goes out. He finds it again, but it's broken. Then, in total darkness, he gropes his way back to the nursery, half panting, half sobbing, the wind howling as he goes, until he finds the nightlight and succeeds in lighting it. The wind continues to roar about the house. Kipps retraces his steps out of the room and through the house with only the candle for light. He sits, his head in his hands, the candle by him.
Let it be morning. Let it be light.
From outside comes the sound of someone whistling, as one whistles a dog.
Spider?
Kipps stands and, taking his candle, moves to open the outside door.
Who is it, Spider? Who is it, girl?
Before he can restrain her, she is off, as though after a hare, running low and fast out of the house and away across the marshes.
Spider, come back! Spider, come back!
Again the whistle. As Kipps moves violently forward, the candle is extinguished.
Spider!
Imperceptibly, the dawn begins to break. Throughout the following, the wind rages, and Kipps moves to the forestage and steps. During the next sequence, the woman in black is engaged in rendering the nursery area in utter shambles. She's outside the light, yet we see her as a crow-like silhouette, violently flapping in the dark.
He stands amazed and bewildered as Spider's small form recedes into the great open expanse. Then he runs as he has never run before.
We hear Kipps' footsteps pounding furiously.
She is floundering in mud, fighting to retain her balance from the pull beneath her feet. She is yelping loudly.
Spider!
Still just visible.
I'm coming, Spider. Hold on, girl.
Again the whistle.
Then he too begins to feel the stickiness and unsteadiness of the ground as it becomes boggier.
Stay still, Spider. Still as you can.
He is obliged to wade rather than walk.
Have courage. I'm coming.
The little dog can scarcely hold up. Her legs and half her body have disappeared beneath the whirling, sucking bog, and her pointed head is held up in the air as she struggles and yelps.
Good girl. Good girl.
Again the whistle.
Keep trying, Spider. Keep trying, girl.
He lies down and fully extended reaches for the dog.
He grabs her neck just as the last of her body sinks. He hauls and strains with the strength born of terror. He feels his grip on the slippery wet fur give. The dog begins to slide away. Then, with a huge last effort, he drags his body backwards onto the firmer ground.
The dog is suddenly released from the mud. Kipps rolls back, exhausted.
Oh, Spider, Spider, thank God, thank God.
He lies a while in silence, then looks up. The woman in black stands, looking directly down at him. He stares at her, then screams. Then from the back of the theater comes the sound of a pony and trap. Blackout. The woman in black exits. In the blackout, the actor, as Samuel Daly, moves to Kipps and shines a torch into Kipps' eyes, attempting to rouse him.
Mr. Kipps. Arthur.
The lights fades up slowly as Kipps comes around.
The trap, the pony and trap.
Just over there. I still like to make use of it now and again. It's a pleasant way to travel.
I heard others, another.
Oh, yes. Not Keckwick.
No.
No. You take care now.
I'm better, I'm all right.
I had you on my mind. I wasn't happy. It began to unsettle me.
Isn't it quite early in the morning? I've become confused.
Early enough. I kept waking. As I said, I had you on my mind.
How strange.
Was it? Not as strange as it seems to me. Not strange at all.
No.
A good job I came when I did.
Yes, indeed. I'm very grateful. I'm extremely glad to see you, Mr. Daly.
People have drowned on that marsh before now.
Yes, I know that now. I felt that I was being pulled under and the dog with me. Spider!
She's here. She'll do. Now, when you've come to a bit more, you better get whatever you need and we'll be off.
Off?
Aye. I came to see how you are faring in this god-forsaken place. I have seen. You had better come back home with me and recover yourself.
Thank you. I shall gather my things and I shan't be long.
Kipps moves through the house. He finds in particular the small packet of letters and documents he had been reading. These he picks up together with his overnight bag. He is about to go downstairs when he sees the door to the nursery ajar. He moves to look in, striking a match by which to see. The full extent of the devastation is revealed.
Dear God in heaven!
He picks up various broken objects as he looks about him and puts them down again. Then, in sudden fear, runs from the room to join Daly. The actor, as Daly, moves the skip to represent the trap once more as Kip comes up to him.
Come on then, Arthur, and in you get. We'll be home in no time.
Kipps, as he climbs up, stumbles. Daly helps him, then climbs up himself.
Spider, come on now, up. Good loss.
The pony and trap drives off. As it goes into the fading light, Kipps looks back to the house. There is no one there. Blackout. Samuel Daly exits. The lights return. Kipps draws up a chair to the side of the skip, using it as a desk. He opens the packet of letters and takes them out. Reading a death certificate.
Nathaniel Drablow, age 6 years. Cause of death. Drowning.
Another.
Rose Judd, nursemaid. Cause of death. Drowning.
Another.
Janet Eliza Humphrey, spinster, age 36. Cause of death, heart failure.
Silence. Samuel Daly enters with a decanter of whiskey and 2 glasses. He sets them on the skip and sits opposite, pouring a glass.
Well, you have come a long way since the night I met you on the late train.
It feels like 100 years ago.
You've gone through some rough seas.
Pause. They drink.
Do you suppose that poor Mrs. Drablow was haunted night and day by the ghost of the woman in black?
Jeanette Humphrey. She was her sister.
Do you suppose she had to endure those dreadful noises out there? If such was the case, I wonder how she could have endured it without going out of her mind.
Perhaps she did not.
Perhaps. Was there something I still did not see? If I had stayed there any longer, would I have encountered yet more horrors?
That I cannot tell.
But you could tell me something.
Daly shifts uneasily.
Come. We're a good way from the place, and my nerves are quite steady again.
A pause then to give the lie this last statement. An edge of hysteria comes into his voice.
I must know. It can't hurt me now.
Not you. No, not you, maybe.
What are you holding back?
You, Arthur, will be away from here tomorrow or the next day. You if you are lucky, will neither hear nor see nor know of anything to do with that damned place again. The rest of us have to stay.
With
We
what?
have to live with it.
With what? Stories, rumors, with the sight of that woman in black from time to time. With what?
With whatever will surely follow. Sometime or other, Crythan Gifford has lived with that for 50 years. It's changed people. They don't speak of it. You found that out. Those who have suffered the worst say least. Jerome, Keckwick.
He pauses and helps himself to more whiskey.
Jeanette Humphrey gave up her child, the boy, to her sister, Alice Drablow, and Alice's husband, because she had no choice. At first, she stayed away, hundreds of miles away, but in the end, the pain of being parted from him, instead of easing, grew worse, and she returned to Crythan. She got rooms in the town. She'd no money. She took in sewing. She acted as a companion to a lady. At first, apparently, Alice Drablow would not let her see the boy at all, but Jeanette was so distressed that she threatened violence, and in the end, the sister relented just so far. Jeanette could visit very occasionally, but never could see the boy alone, nor ever disclose who she was or that she had any relationship to him. No one ever foresaw that he'd turn out to look so like her, nor that the natural affinity between them would grow out. He became more and more and more attached to her, and as he did so, he began to be colder to Alice Drablow. Jeanette planned to take him away, that much I do know. Before she could do so, the accident happened, just as you heard. The boy, the nursemaid, the pony, the trap, and its driver, Keckwick.
Keckwick?
Keckwick's father. And there was the boy's little dog, too. That's a treacherous place, as you found out to your cost. The sea fret sweeps over the marshes suddenly. The quicksands are hidden.
Are they all drowned?
And Jeanette was at the house, watching in the upper window, waiting for them to return. The bodies were recovered, but they left the pony in the trap. It was held too fast by the mud. From that day, Jeanette Humphrey began to go mad.
Was there any wonder?
No. Mad with grief and mad with anger and a desire for revenge. She blamed her sister who let them go out that day, though it was no one's fault. The mists come without warning.
Out of a clear sky.
Whether it was because of her loss and her madness or what, she also contracted a disease which caused her to begin to waste away. The flesh shrank from her bones. The color was drained from her. She looked like a walking skeleton, a living specter. Children were terrified of her. She died eventually. She died in hatred and misery, and as soon as ever she died, the hauntings began.
Well, Mrs. Drablow was dead. There, surely, the whole matter will rest.
And wherever she has been seen, in the graveyard, on the marsh, in the streets of the town, however briefly and whoever by, there has been one sure and certain result.
Yes?
In some violent or dreadful circumstance, a child has died.
What? You mean by accident?
Generally, by accident. Once or twice it has been after an illness, which has struck them down within a day or night, or less.
You mean any child? Child of the town?
Any child. Jerome's child.
But surely, well, children sometimes do die.
They do?
And is there anything more than chance to connect these deaths with the appearance of that woman?
You may find it hard to believe. You may doubt it.
Well,
We know.
I do not doubt, Mr. Daly.
The lights begin to pulse and blur as the last verbal exchange is repeated as a voiceover echoing in Kip's mind.
You may find it hard to believe. You may doubt it.
Well,
We know.
Arthur. I do not doubt it, Mr. Daly.
Arthur, We know.
I do not doubt, Mr. Daly.
We know, Arthur.
As Kipps falls, Sam Daly catches him, laying him gently down and covers him with the blanket, which is the overture to Kipps' delirium. In the sequence, snatches of dialogue return to haunt him in the form of voiceovers. The words are distorted, blurred, accompanied by sounds of the pony and trap. There are momentary glimpses of the woman in black. It's a whirling nightmare in which, at its climax, Kipps screams.
And now it's your turn. I have no story. A foul day. Tom's dead, don't you know? Have you ever heard of the 9 Lives Causeway? Stella, scribble a note to dead, don't you know? 1 minute, it's as clear as a June day. The next, Stella. The Drablow papers, sir. She could hardly do otherwise than living there. Isn't there a family grave? Behold, I show you a mystery. I did not see a young woman, Stella. Dead, don't you know? Keckwick will come with you. How did you get out? I wouldn't have left you overnight. Stella, you will find no one suitable. A woman. So I said once. A woman. Not another living soul. A woman in black. Such things one must face. A woman whistling. A woman in black with the wasted face. You're whistling in the dark. You shouldn't go there. Drablow, alone. You shouldn't go there. Dead, don't you know? Stella, alone. But he is mine. Spider, I think my heart will break. Spider, come back. He can never be yours. A child, Stella. Never, Stella. In hatred, never. A child. He can never be yours.
Stella!
A substantial blackout. Then there's birdsong, which gives way to the sounds of a pleasure park. Music, laughter, many voices, as a spot comes up on Kipps at the edge of the stage.
There's only one last thing left to tell. Within a few weeks, Stella and I were married, and a little over a year later, Stella gave birth to our child, a son, whom we called Joseph Arthur Samuel, and Mr. Samuel Daly was his godfather. I never thought of the past. I was filled with joy and contentment in my life. I was in a particularly peaceful, happy frame of mind one Sunday afternoon the following summer. We had gone to a large park 10 miles or so outside London. There was a festive holiday air about the place. A lake, a bandstand, stalls selling ices and fruits. Families strolled in the sunshine, children tumbled on the grass. Stella and I walked happily, with young Joseph taking a few unsteady steps, holding on to our hands. One of the attractions on offer was a pony and trap, on which rides could be taken, and little Joseph gestured to it excitedly.
We hear the pony and trap begin to draw away. There's a babble of conversation and the strains of the band playing a jolly tune.
So, because there was only room for 2, Stella took Joseph and I stood, watching them bowl merrily down the ride. For a while they went out of sight, away around a bend, and I began to look idly about me at the other enjoyers of the afternoon. And then, quite suddenly, I saw her.
A spot illuminates the woman in black. The pony and trap draws nearer. We hear the child's laughter, the sound of the band, voices. The spot leaves Kipps, and we watch the woman in black staring as if the trap is bearing towards her. Then, on a sudden movement from her, we hear the neighing of a startled horse, the shout of a driver, shouts of terror from the child, and then a horrifying crash. There is a second while the woman in black remains on the spot. Then she is gone.
Our baby son had been thrown clear against another tree. He lay crumpled on the grass below it, dead. And 10 months later, Stella, too, died from her terrible injuries. I had seen the ghost of Jeanette Humphrey, and she had had her revenge. You asked for my story. I have told it. Enough.
Silence. Then Kipps crosses and switches on the workers. The actor comes to him and in silence shakes his hand.
Thank you.
Thank you. And it is done, do you think? Will it now be laid to rest?
I pray it will. I thank you for your trouble, your enthusiasm, and your effort. Your emotion just now, it was as if I watched myself.
I imagined my own child.
Yes, yes. Well, I pray that when we show it to our audience, at last it will be done with.
Who is she?
I beg your pardon.
Your surprise. She is remarkable. Where did you find her?
I'm afraid I don't understand.
Your surprise, Mr. Kipps, the surprise you found for me.
My surprise was that I'd learnt my words.
Yes. You learned them expertly. But the woman you found, the actress, the woman in black, who was she? You organized it as a complete surprise. You had her come here and go through her part, and a young woman with a wasted face, she...
Silence. The actor staring at him in horror.
A young woman.
Is there anything the matter? You look unwell.
I did not see a young woman.
As the lights fade, we hear again the rhythmic bump, bump, pause, bump, bump, pause. Blackout. Curtain. Oh my God, terrific job, you two.
What the hell?
Wow.
That was
Holy shit.
amazing.
That was.
Whew, what a play.
Isn't it great?
Yay.
Bravo.
Yay.
Oh man.
Owen.
And Andy kept laughing at your characterizations, Veronica.
I believe that, yeah.
They were also funny and unique, and then when you pulled them all together for that final piece, I was like,
Oh my
Veronica
gosh.
Straight-Lingo, what are you doing?
Holy cow.
Oh
What a-
yeah, you got to see her Christmas Carol, boy.
Yeah. Wow. What a gallop there at the end. Well, I will stop the recording and we can have a discussion if everyone is interested.
Yeah.
But I do want to again thank all of the wonderful volunteers that we had this week. What a week this has been for Miscreant and for the book club here. Y'all are so amazing, and I sincerely hope that y'all are enjoying this and will continue to come and work with us again. So on that, I will go ahead and stop the recording.